Chapter 51. A gathering of big bosses 3 days later. Qin Hao rushed to the east of the city to meet Huajun. Huajun brought them to a manor. For safety reasons, Qin Hao and Xiao would disguise themselves again before going to the manor. This time, they were even more cautious and careful. They couldn't give themselves away. Huajun was helpless about this. As long as Xiao revealed his identity, all the problems would be solved. But he refused. But there was one thing that made Huajun feel relieved. After parting with Qin Hao that day, he went to see Qi Daxiong and told him about Xiaogua. Qi Daxiong admitted that he had a son who was about the same age as Xiaogua. There shouldn't be any mistake. Xiaogua must be Master Qi's precious son. As long as Qi Daxiong was there, Qin Hao and Huajun would be absolutely safe. I can only bring you here. Remember, don't overdo it. Huajun reminded them. Then he shouted toward the inner court, "Brother Lu Wei, please bring these 2 little brothers in. Leave it to me. Don't forget to treat me to a drink. If not, I'll break your legs." "Ha ha! Little guy, come here." A bearded middle-aged man stood in the courtyard and waved at Qin Hao. Qin Hao thanked Huajun and led Xiaogua into the inner court. Huajun was only responsible for guarding the manor's walls. His status was too low, so his ability was limited. The bearded man inside was his immediate superior, the captain of the Furious Bear mercenary group. He was in the first layer of element gathering tier and was Qi Daxiong's old subordinate. Under the guidance of the bearded man, Qin Hao and Xiaogua easily stepped into the auction venue. The auction venue was the main hall of the manor. It was grand and magnificent. The bearded man didn't enter. Like Huajun, he was only responsible for guarding. Not bad, Qin Hao praised as he glanced at the hall. He thought that the auction in the small exploding flame city wouldn't be too high-end. However, after entering, he found that it was different from what he had imagined. The venue wasn't messy, crowded, and smelly. Instead, it was very solemn and quiet, so solemn that it made people feel a little cold. Qin Hao knew that this house had accumulated a murderous aura all year round. Who knew how many murders had taken place here? The auction was indeed not simple. The area of the hall was not too small, and it could accommodate more than 100 people. In the middle was a T-shaped auction stage, and on both sides of the auction stage were seats. They were all domineering seats with backs. The most obvious place was the front of the auction stage. There were 3 tables at the front, specially prepared for the leaders of the 3 mercenary groups. However, there were 2 chairs at the table in the middle. Qi Daxiong definitely had a seat, and this seat was on the same level as the commander. It could be seen how high Qi Daxiong's position was in the Furious Bear mercenary group and even the entire exploding flame city. "Where did you come from?" "Scram!" A greasy voice rang out, interrupting Qin Hao's thoughts. Qin Hao and Xiaogua looked back. They saw a fat man who was wearing gold and silver with a big belly and 2 silver balls in his hands, walking in. The fat man had a fat head and pig ears, and his whole body emitted a strong smell of copper. There was a group of people following behind him, looking very arrogant. Qin Hao and Xiaogua stood in the passage, blocking the fat man's way. "Damn fat man." Xiaogua mumbled and was about to start a war of words with the fat man. Qin Hao hurriedly pulled him back and took the initiative to step aside. "Bumpkin, spit." When the fat man saw that Qin Hao did not dare to resist, he became even more arrogant. He deliberately spat in front of Qin Hao, rubbed the 2 silver balls in his hands, and swaggered in. He sat on the left side of the auction stage. The thugs who followed him also raised their fists at Qin Hao with a ferocious look, and then left while laughing. A bunch of B** starts. Xiaogua was so angry that he grit his teeth. He wanted to rush over and tear the fat man's greasy face apart. "Don't be rash." Qin Hao grabbed Xiaogua's hand tightly. At this moment, people were entering the auction hall one after another. There were high officials, rich people, and famous people. All of them were reputable people in Exploding Flame City. There were even some guys in black robes with their faces covered. All of them had a strong aura that gave people a deep sense of oppression. The auction was indeed a dangerous place. In the hall, almost all the big shots in Exploding Flame City had gathered. Qin Hao pulled Xiaogua to the right side of the auction stage and was about to sit down. "This seat is not for you to sit in." scram to the back. A scarred face who was sitting in the third row from the back saw that Qin Hao dared to sit in front of him. Qin Hao was courting death. Ew. Saiowa had a stomach full of anger and was worried about where to vent it. It's okay. Let's go. Qin Hao left with Saiowa again. They went to the last row on the right and found the most inconspicuous corner to sit down. Little bastard, I have the strength of a body tempering stage 7, but I can only sit in the third row from the back. If you're not convinced, come and bite me. Damn it, the scarred face did not let Qin Hao go. He deliberately turned around and insulted Qin Hao. Son of a b****. Saiowa was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. How dare a puny body tempering stage 7 be so arrogant? Big brother is only 16 years old, but he already has the strength of a body tempering stage 8. He could even kill a class 9 beast easily. How could he be insulted by the scarred face? He could insult Saiowa, but he could not insult Qin Hao. Qin Hao was his idol. Unable to take it anymore, Saiowa was about to rush over and punch the scarred face's chest with his pink little fists. Qin Hao was helpless. He pushed Saiowa back down again. He was worried that Saiowa would be punched back if he ran over. However, at this moment, 3 groups of people with majestic auras walked into the hall. At this moment, everyone stood up at the same time and looked at the burly man walking at the front with admiration. The burly man was in his 40s. He was bare-shouldered, wearing a pair of shorts and a red cape. He looked like a bullfighter. He was almost 2 meters tall, with explosive muscles all over his body. He walked with a majestic gait. His pair of sharp eyes were breathtaking. No one dared to look into his sharp eyes. In this hall that was filled with all the experts in the exploding flame city, they could only look up at this man with a respectful attitude. He was the #1 guardian of the Furious Bear mercenary group, the recognized #1 expert in explosive flame city. Qi Da Xiong, the real leader of the Furious Bear mercenary group, followed behind Qi Da Xiong like a follower. He looked as honest as he could. Behind the Furious Bear mercenary group was the #2 mercenary group in explosive flame city, the Condor mercenary group. Then it was Qin Hao's old acquaintance, the Wolf mercenary group. To Qin Hao's surprise, Zhou Shantong was also here. Still the same, always wearing a straight face, as if it's cool. Saiowa stared at Qi Daxiong unscrupulously. From the moment Qi Daxiong stepped into the hall, Saiowa's eyes never left him. Among everyone, he was the second one who dared to look at Qi Daxiong. The first one was Qin Hao. Qin Hao smiled at Saiowa meaningfully, trying to dig out his secret. Judging from your tone, you seem to know each other very well. No, I don't know him. Qi Xiaohua lowered her head and sat back down. Her mood calmed down in an instant, and she completely forgot about the scarred face. Qi Daxiong ignored all the admiring gazes. He walked straight to the table in the middle and sat down on the chair next to it. After he sat down, the leaders of the 3 mercenary groups dared to sit down one by one. He was so domineering, arrogant, and even a little arrogant. Chapter 52. The rich man Qin Hao carefully observed Qi Daxiong from a corner. His aura was very strong, definitely an expert at the peak of element gathering tier. Faintly, Qin Hao even felt that Qi Daxiong might be stronger than he had imagined. The strange thing was when he stepped in, he used his mental power to scan Qin Hao and Saiowa's positions. His gaze even lingered on Qin Hao for 2 seconds. Qin Hao did not understand what was going on. He did not provoke the other party. Little bastards, you actually dare to sit here. I'll make you suffer later. Scarface, who was sitting in front, turned his head and raised his nose threateningly at Qin Hao. Everyone had stood up, but these 2 ignorant country bumpkins were still sitting. It was obvious that they did not give Master Qi any face. He remembered that during the last auction, someone had stood up a little late and was crippled by the raging bear mercenary group. Another time, a certain fellow accidentally raised his head and glanced at Lord Qi. In the end, he died in a smelly ditch. These 2 little bastards are really bold, even bolder than me. They're dead meat. Since you admire Qi Daxiong so much, why don't you become his son? Saiowa sneered. You think I don't want to? As long as Master Qi agrees, I'll even be his grandson. Scarface's eyes were filled with yearning. If he could become Master Qi's grandson, That would be great, even though he looked about the same age as Cheetah Xiong. Idiot, Qin Hao muttered. Ding ding. The crisp sound of the bell suddenly rang out, indicating that the auction had officially begun. At this moment, everyone's gaze shifted to the auction stage. Countless rare treasures were about to appear there. Even though everyone's gaze was abnormally hot, no one dared to make a move on the auction stage. The leaders of the three large mercenary groups were sitting in front, and Cheetah Xiong was personally holding the line. Even if they were given 100 guts, no one would dare to make a move. Brat, just wait for a good show. I'll make you regret coming here. And you're not even fit to be Master Chi's grandson. Scarface heard Qin Hao calling him a retard, but he didn't dare to make a move. Next was the competitive game of the auction. He swore that Qin Hao would not be able to bid for a single strand of hair because his brother-in-law was here. He had to rely on his wealthy brother-in-law to qualify for the auction. Everyone were all familiar with each other, so there's no need for me to waste time on introductions. Let's get to the main topic. An old man with sparse hair appeared on the auction stage. Oh my God, it's Master Fong. Isn't he the chief appraiser of the shop? Why are you here? Following the appearance of the old man, a small commotion arose below. The Exploding Goods Hall was the largest auction house in the city. It was a very formal kind. The old man on the stage was not only the chief appraiser of the shop, but also the host of this underground auction. Master Fong smiled proudly. He was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. This auction was held once every 3 years, and each time, there would be a few new faces appearing. It was normal that the new bumpkins didn't know that he had two identities. Just like the two bumpkins on the right, they were stunned when they saw the old man. They were simply bumpkins. In an instant, Master Fong's vanity was greatly satisfied. The two bumpkins he mentioned were Qin Hao and Xiaogua, who were sitting in the corner. First of all, today's first auction item, 2 Class 8 Dire Beast cores. Master Fong waved his hand. 2 graceful girls in white robes came up. The robes on their bodies were extremely loose, and the skirt had a high slit that went all the way to their thighs. As they walked, a pair of snow-white, beautiful legs were a feast for the eyes. As the girls walked, their breasts were even more turbulent. Through the loose robes, the beautiful body inside was vaguely visible, making people's imagination run wild. Some of the people at the scene couldn't control themselves and directly had nosebleeds. The atmosphere instantly heated up. The 2 girls each held a plate, and on each plate was a white bead. They were tall and slender. Holding the plates, they spun twice on the stage. Everyone could see clearly that they were 2 genuine Class 8 Dire Beast cores. Old man, good trick. Qin Hao could see that Master Fong was an old fox. He arranged for the girls to stir up people's hearts. His method was very clever. Not only that, but the first auction item was a Class 8 Dire Beast core. It could be seen that this small auction house was very strong, and it was not inferior to a large auction house. Qin Hao nodded. Maybe I can really find something I want here. Little bastard, you want those 2 cores, don't you? Let me tell you, I'm going to take them. You can wait to eat shit. Scarface turned his head and was ready to show his hand to Qin Hao. Qin Hao and Qi Xiaobai looked at Scarface as if he was an idiot. This guy was crazy. It was only 2 Class 8 Dire Beast cores. Although they were very attractive to low-level Unists, Qin Hao didn't care about them at all. However, Qin Hao was not interested in them at all. He had 4 in his spatial ring. A while ago, when Qin Hao took the Red Lotus Fire from Mount Explosive Flame, he killed several dire beasts to treat Qin Yu's illness. 1,000 taels. Scarface slapped his thigh and raised his arm. Qin Hao found that the auction had already begun. The starting price of the 2 cores was 1,000 taels of silver. 1,500 taels. A guy in a black robe shouted. 2,000 taels. Scarface's brows furrowed. He had to get these 2 cores. He was going to use them to break through to the next level. 3,000 taels. If you dare to compete with me again, I'll kill you. The man in a black robe next door shouted again and even threatened him. I'm not afraid of you. Scarface was not to be outdone. However, 3,000 taels was already his limit. He had no more money. Scarface felt very embarrassed. The scars on his face twisted together, looking as ugly as they could be. Finally, he clenched his teeth and shouted, "Brother-in-law, no big deal. 5,000 taels. I'll take these 2 cores." A greasy voice sounded from the left side of the auction stage. Everyone was shocked. Someone actually spent 5,000 taels of silver to buy 2 Class 8 Dire Beast cores. These 2 cores were worth 2,000 taels at most. Qin Hao found that the one who shouted the price was the fat man in gold and silver. He was Scarface's brother-in-law. 5,000 taels. Anyone else? Master Fong asked on the stage. Seeing that no one was bidding, he waved his hand and ordered the girl to send the cores directly to the fat man. "Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me win." Ha ha ha. The fat man leaned back in his chair and laughed, looking very proud. Especially after the 2 girls walked over. His smile became even brighter and he was drooling. So beautiful, and so long legs. If he could play with them for a night, he would be willing to give up 2 years of his life. However, the fat man knew that the owner of the manor was very powerful, so he could only fantasize about it. He definitely did not dare to touch the girls in the manor. "Continue to bid. Let's see who will die." Scarface snorted at the black-robed man. "So Uncle Hai is your brother-in-law. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I will leave immediately." The black-robed man wiped his cold sweat and left dejectedly. The fat man opposite him had a very high status. His name was Hai Jiufu, the richest man in Exploding Flame City. He also had an elder brother, Hai Dafu, who was also the richest man in Heaven's Wall City. The Hai family was as rich as a country. Offending Uncle Hai would not end well. If he did not leave now, he would not be able to leave later. "How is it, kid? Are you scared silly by my mighty and majestic appearance?" Ha ha! After scaring away the black-robed man, Scarface laughed wildly at Qin Hao. Qin Hao was baffled. Why was this scar-faced idiot always going against him? In fact, Scarface could not afford to offend anyone in the hall. He only dared to show off because of his brother-in-law. Chapter 53. Money can be capricious. Next up was the second item, a set of high-tier yellow-grade skills, with a starting bid of 3,000 taels. 4,000 taels. 5,000 taels. 6,000 taels. The bidding continued, and the price continued to soar. "Brother-in-law," Scarface roared. 20,000 taels. This set of skills is mine. Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me win. Ha ha. Hai Fei once again bid a high price. Suddenly, the room was filled with sighs. 20,000 taels of silver was too much for many people to compete. The high-tier yellow-grade skills on the market were worth at most 5,000 taels. Master Fong's skills were definitely better than the ones on the market, so everyone wanted to get their hands on it. Hai Fei was too rich. Competing with him in terms of wealth was just asking for death. "That fatty is very arrogant," Xiaogu said to Qin Hao. "You don't like him?" Qin Hao asked. "What can I do if I don't like him? Money is also a display of strength." Xiaogu shook his head helplessly. "Since he is so strong, I will play with him." Qin Hao laughed. He decided to teach Scarface a lesson and destroy his arrogance. Gulp! Xiaogu swallowed his saliva. The fatty opposite him did not look like someone to be trifled with. Qin Hao had a limited amount of money on him, so he only had about 170,000 taels of silver. Xiaogu knew very well that the later items in the auction would be more valuable. His big brother's fire control equipment had not been released yet, so it was not wise to compete with this fatty in terms of wealth. On the other hand, Qin Hao looked relaxed. This made Xiaogu curious, and he wanted to see what his big brother was going to do. The third item is the inner core of a 9th-grade ferocious beast. Don't underestimate this inner core. It is the inner core of a spiked bird. Master Fong's lips curled into a smile as he continued. This inner core is provided by the brothers of the Condor Mercenary Group. In order to hunt down the spiked birds, the Condor Mercenary Group lost 3 men, and even the second elder was injured. The starting price is 20,000 taels of silver. Let the bidding begin. Hiss! Everyone below the stage sucked in a breath of cold air. The spiked bird was the most ferocious beast in the Inferno mountain range. and it was the king of all ferocious beasts. It could be said that it was almost invincible among ferocious beasts. It was even stronger than a body-tempering stage 9 human. If a spike bird's inner core, it would be enough to break through to the gathering stage. This inner core was definitely a treasure. What a pity, it would probably fall in a Hai Jufu's pocket again. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. Scarface rubbing his big brother excitedly. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. Seeing his anxious look, she thought that something inappropriate was going to happen between him and his brother-in-law. 50,000 taels of silver. Does anyone have a problem with my price? Hai Fei Zi shouted casually, which meant that he wanted the inner core. Master Hai, you are too much. What's the point of bidding for the inner core if you're not strong enough? You are not giving us a chance to survive. Many people stood up angrily, unable to tolerate Hai Fei Zi's impudence. Most of them were of body tempering stage 8 and stage 9, and they really needed the inner core of the spike bird. However, Fatty Hai used his enormous wealth to suppress them, making them unable to raise their heads. I have a lot of money, and I can do whatever I want. Ha ha ha! Hai Fei Zi slapped his thigh and laughed wildly. He pointed at his henchmen and said, I am not strong enough, but my henchmen still need to eat. 50,000 taels of silver will make you poor bastards jealous. Bah! No one dared to say anything. At the same time, they were envious, jealous, and hateful. Hai Fei Zi spent 50,000 taels of silver on his henchmen, which was really generous. They could only blame themselves for not being able to save tens of thousands of taels of silver after working hard for half their lives. Hai Fei Zi had a lot of money, and he could do whatever he wanted. They could not fight him head-on, but he was really too arrogant. If only someone would come out and teach him a lesson. 100,000 taels of silver, and I want the inner core. While they were stunned, an unexpected voice sounded. Everyone was shocked and looked at the voice at the same time. It was a young man sitting in the corner who shouted. It was Qin Hao. And how much did he bid? 100,000 taels of silver? Oh my God, was he a prodigal son? Using 100,000 taels of silver to bid for the inner core of a level 9 ferocious beast. He openly challenged Hai Fei Zi. He did not want to live anymore. At this moment, someone finally taught Hai Fei a lesson. Many people were excited. However, when they saw Qin Hao, they began to shake their heads. Qin Hao was a young man who overestimated himself and went against Hai Fei Zi. He was doomed. Brother, Sayoba was also shocked. Qin Hao asked for 100,000 taels of silver, which was almost half of Big Brother's wealth. It's okay, I have a lot of money too, and I can do whatever I want. Qin Hao imitated Hai Fei Zi, leaning back in his chair comfortably and patting his thigh. Squeak! Hai Fei Zi clenched his fists, and his fat face trembled with anger. Today was the first time someone dared to go against him. What he did not expect was, it was the wild boy who blocked his way. Country bumpkin, is your brain fried? Hai Fei Zi stared at Qin Hao with an unfriendly gaze, and his tone was full of threat. I had nothing to do, so I played a game. Are you a sore loser, fatty? Do you want to fight? Qin Hao narrowed his eyes and said with disdain. Ha ha! The hall burst into laughter. This young man was really bold. It was the first time they heard someone call Hai Fei a fatty. It was really satisfying. Good. How dare you go against me? I'll teach you a lesson later. Hai Fei Zi squeezed out 3 words from between his teeth. During the auction, no killing was allowed. Otherwise, it would anger Qi Daxiong. However, once it was over, brother-in-law, use your money to kill him. Scarface jumped up violently. He never thought that the little bastard he looked down on would dare to offend his brother-in-law. After the auction was over, he must destroy this little bastard to vent his anger for his brother-in-law. 101 taels. Hai Fei Zi shouted. But he was not stupid. The price he offered was only 1 tael more than Qin Hao's. No matter how precious the inner elixir of the spike bird was, it was more than 30,000. Now, he was already distressed to spend 100,000 taels to buy it for a lackey. However, Hai Fei Zi was still very happy to be able to kill Qin Hao with 1 tael of silver. 150,000. Qin Hao raised the price again without thinking. He added another 50,000 taels. Hiss! There was an uproar in the hall. Even Master Fong on the stage could not help but look at Qin Hao. The bumpkin in the corner turned out to be a rich man. However, was he a bit stupid? Brother, Xiaowu looked very nervous. 150,000 taels was almost Qin Hao's limit. If he used up all his money, how could he bid for the fire control equipment later? It's okay. I have a lot of money. I can do whatever I want. Qin Hao smiled disapprovingly. Bastard. Hai Fei Zi was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He wanted to back out. 150,000 taels to buy the inner elixir of the spike bird was a huge loss. Are you scared? So you were a useless guy. It's good that you admit defeat. I bought the inner elixir to feed the dogs at home. Qin Hao shook his head disdainfully at Hai Fei Zi. Ha ha! The crowd laughed wildly. Everyone admired Qin Hao's courage. Hai Fei Zi spent 50,000 taels of silver to buy the inner elixir for his lackey. Although it was a bit rich, it was still for people to eat. Chapter 54. Feeding the dog, brother-in-law. Use your money to smash him into a pulp. Scarface yelled crazily. That kid is too arrogant. I'll kill him for you. Master Hai, you can't lose. You're going to win. The thugs behind him shouted anxiously. Their eyes were filled with hatred for Qin Hao. If Hai Fei Zi lost, it meant that they were worse than dogs. 150,001 taels of silver. I want the inner core. Hai Fei Zi was so angry that his nose was crooked. His heart was bleeding, but he couldn't back down. He was helpless. He had to kill Qin Hao. He wasted 150,000 taels of silver. 200,000. Qin Hao raised the price to 200,000, not giving Hai Fei Zi a chance to breathe. Boom! Everyone was struck by lightning. Strong. Domineering. That kid was really something. Boom! Xiaowu was stunned. It was over. Big Brother must be crazy. 200,000 was far beyond their limit. Crack! Hai Fei Zi felt like he was struck by lightning. He was so shocked that he rolled off his chair. 200,000 taels of silver. 200,000 taels of silver to feed the dog. Where did that kid come from? This kid is good. On the stage, Master Fong looked at Qin Hao with new eyes. There was no longer any disdain in his eyes. Rich people were the boss. Rich people were the VIP guests. Rich people were the symbol of nobility. Kid, I'll kill you. Scarface couldn't bear it anymore. He jumped up and was ready to smash Qin Hao's head with his fist. He found that the only person he could bully was now stronger than him. He felt humiliated. Stop! Hai Fei Zi roared and stopped Scarface in time. He glanced at Qi Daxiong carefully. If Scarface dared to make a move, none of them would be able to leave here alive. Do you really think you can win against me in terms of financial resources? 200,000 is nothing. I have more money than you can imagine. Come on, kid. 201 taels of silver. Hai Fei Zi let out a blood-curdling roar. He had to use money to regain his dignity. Didn't that brat want to play? I'll play with him to the end. Let's see who has more money. Let's see who's the best. Let's see who will have the last laugh. But in the next moment, Hai Fei Zi's face turned pale as if she had eaten rat feces. She looked as ugly as she could. I don't want the inner core anymore. Qin Hao said something that made everyone want to faint. His face was calm as he spoke, as if this matter was not important at all. There was even a smile on his face. His smile seemed to be telling Hai Fei Zi, congratulations on winning. Congratulations, you bought an inner core for 200,000. Congratulations on having the last laugh. Congratulations on becoming a big idiot. It wasn't until this moment that everyone realized that Qin Hao had no intention of getting the inner elixir of the spiked bird. He was just toying with Hai Fei Zi. Come on, give the inner core to Master Hai. Master Fong was very astute. He quickly ordered people to give the inner core to Hai Jiufu, for fear that the fatty would go back on his word like Qin Hao. That young man was too smart. He was not stupid at all. Congratulations, congratulations, Master Hai. Master Hai is rich. 200,000 for an inner core. I can't compare. Ha ha. Everyone congratulated Hai Fei Zi in unison. Their words were full of sarcasm, as if they were calling him an idiot. Some people even secretly gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. This young man was very courageous. He played High Fei Z in the palm of his hand and helped everyone vent their anger. You? High Fei Z pointed at Qin Hao. He was so angry that he could not say a word. He had been smart for half his life, but today he was played like a monkey by a country bumpkin. He had lost all his face in front of so many people. What are you looking at? Come and bite us if you don't like it. Xiaoguo raised his head and said to Scarface. He admired Qin Hao very much. Scarface was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He clearly didn't like Qin Hao, but he couldn't kill him. Qi Daxiong was sitting in the distance. I gave up the inner core of the spike bird. It's not because I don't have enough money, but because I think its quality is too low. Even if I fed it to the dogs, they wouldn't eat it. Qin Hao put his hand into his pocket and pretended to take something out. Under the cover of his clothes, he took out an inner core from his infinite space ring. It was also a level 9 dire beast inner core, but the color was much brighter than the spike bird's. Oh my god, it's the inner core of the Iron Tiger. Those who knew what it was could recognize it at a glance. It was the inner core of the Iron Tiger. The Iron Tiger was a level 9 dire beast king. Its body was covered in iron scales and was very fierce. Without a sharp weapon, it was impossible to break its scales. If the spiked bird was the overlord of the dire beasts, the Iron Tiger was the absolute king. The inconspicuous young man in front of him had the inner core of the Iron Tiger. Puff! When High Fei Z saw the inner core in Qin Hao's hand, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he almost died. He had been tricked. He had been tricked. He had been tricked into a complete defeat. Scarface was so scared that his face turned pale. Qin Hao had the inner core of the Iron Tiger. Didn't that mean that he had the ability to kill a level 9 dire beast king? That was impossible. How old was that kid? He must have prepared it in advance to show off. Scarface firmly believed that Qin Hao was just a weakling with mediocre strength. If he had the chance to fight, he could beat Qin Hao up with just one punch. Ding ding, the crisp sound of the bell rang. The auction will continue, Master Fong said in a low voice, disrupting everyone's thoughts. The following items were all small trinkets that Qin Hao had no interest in. High Fei Z also knew his place and did not dare to be arrogant. He was afraid that others would trick him like Qin Hao, until an item appeared that made Qin Hao's heart skip a beat. It was a stalk of grass. Period replenishing grass. The value of period replenishing grass was needless to say. It was completely dependent on luck. If one was lucky, they might encounter one stalk at a time. If they were unlucky, they might not even see one stalk in 100 years. It was something that could only be found by chance. Not only can it repair broken meridians, it can also greatly increase the success rate of breaking through. Master Fong explained in detail. It was very difficult to raise one's cultivation level. The stronger one was, the more dangerous it was. For example, breaking through from the Gathering Yuan stage to the Master Yuan stage was a qualitative leap. Many people with weak foundations could not withstand the power of the Master Yuan stage. It was easy for them to fail at the crucial moment of breaking through. If they ate a stalk of period replenishing grass, they could temporarily widen the strength of their meridians. Breaking through to the next stage was not a problem at all. However, the period replenishing grass was not cheap. The starting price was 60,000 taels. It was the highest item in the auction. 70,000 taels. Qin Hao made the first move without hesitation. The period replenishing grass was of great use to him. 80,000 taels, I'll take it. A steady voice followed closely behind Qin Hao, shouting in front of Fatty Hai before anyone else could say anything. High Fei Z also wanted a bid. After being tricked by Qin Hao, he was very unhappy and wanted to take revenge. Hearing this steady voice, High Fei Z retreated. It was the leader of the Condor mercenary group who shouted. Although he was unwilling, High Fei Z sneered in his heart. That tramp who tricked him would definitely not dare to fight with Leader Zhang. After offending Zhang Meng, he was not far from death. It was a good opportunity to vent the hatred in his heart. Qin Hao frowned. Zhang Meng had the terrifying strength of the 7th layer of element gathering tier. He was also recognized as the second strongest in exploding flame city. Why did he want the period replenishing grass? Could it be used to break through to the next stage? He did not expect to meet a tough guy this time. Chapter 55. Determined to win 90,000. Qin Hao continued to bid. Hearing this, the crowd broke out in cold sweat. Many of them shook their heads at Qin Hao, hoping that he wouldn't anger Zhang Ming. Even if Qin Hao got the minstrel replenishing grass, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it. Once the auction ended, Zhang Ming would definitely kill him for the treasure. Interesting. Zhang Ming snorted coldly with a fierce look in his eyes. Kid, I don't care if you're rich or not. I don't care if you have any power behind you. In the exploding flame city, we 3 mercenary groups have the final say. To tell you the truth, I only have 120,000 on me. If you have the guts, go ahead and bid. Zhang Ming's eyes turned cold. He slammed the table in front of him and roared, 120,000. Hiss. Everyone took a deep breath. This was a true hero. His words were so arrogant, but he didn't hesitate at all. This was his true strength. Little brother, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. It's not too late to back out. Don't be stupid. A kind-hearted person reminded Qin Hao. Zhang Ming didn't even need to make a move. Just his aura alone was enough to scare people. Big brother, Xiaogwa was about to say something. What's wrong? Are you scared? Qin Hao interrupted. No, Xiaogwa was surprisingly calm. Go all out and kill him. You don't have to give me face. Ha ha ha. Qin Hao laughed and said fearlessly, 130,000. Gotcha. This sentence was like a thunderbolt that struck the crowd, causing an uproar. This young man really dared to fight with Zhang Ming. He was crazy. Ha ha ha. Kid, you're dead. Your whole family is dead. Hai Feizi held his stomach and laughed. This little bastard didn't know his place. Offending Zhang Ming, his whole family was dead. Brother Zhang, I will go and cripple him. The people behind Zhang Ming were filled with murderous intent. Anyone who dared to challenge their leader was going against the entire Condor mercenary group. At this moment, a middle-aged man who was missing his left arm stood out and whispered in Zhang Ming's ear. The middle-aged man was the second elder of the Condor mercenary group. He was the one who provided the inner core of the spike bird. Zhang Ming didn't have much money on him. The middle-aged man was going to give him the money he got from the spike bird auction. With Qi Daxiong here, it was not the right time to kill Qin Hao. No need. I admit defeat. Zhang Ming sneered and waved his hand disdainfully. He was not afraid of Qi Daxiong at all. He didn't want to waste his money on the auction and let the owner of the manor swallow it all up. After the auction was over, he would directly kill Qin Hao. Kid, you're on your own now. Master Fong waved his hand and ordered someone to give the minstrel renewal grass to Qin Hao. Originally, Master Fong was quite optimistic about Qin Hao. After all, he had cheated Hai Feizi of 200,000 yuan and earned profits for the manor. However, he actually dared to provoke Zhang Ming. This time, even if Master Fong personally came forward, he would not be able to protect Qin Hao. The surrounding people looked at Qin Hao as if they were looking at a dead man. This young man did not listen to good advice. He deserved to be beaten to death by Zhang Ming. Qin Hao was not worried about the current situation at all. After receiving the minstrel renewal grass, he was very relieved. Zhang Ming's strength was strong, but he did not intend to fight with his opponent. After the auction, Huijun was waiting outside the courtyard. Even if he delayed Zhang Ming for a few seconds, Qin Hao would be able to escape with Xiaogwa. Everyone, this is the last item of today's auction. It could be said to be a treasure. Master Fong took out a brocade box from his chest and drew everyone's attention. This is the ice elemental bead. Old man accidentally found it under an ice mountain. It has been nurtured for more than 50 years. Cough, cough. Everyone, please take a look. Master Fong opened the brocade box. Suddenly, a gust of cold air filled the hall. It made everyone's hair stand on end, and they couldn't help but shiver. It has a beautiful appearance and bright luster. It can be used in summer to avoid the heat. If someone suffers from cultivation deviation, they can also put it in their mouth to calm the nerves. It can be said to have a wide range of uses. It is a rare treasure in the world. Old man really can't bear to part with it. At this point, Master Fong's face was embarrassed. The starting price is 1,000 taels of silver. If anyone wants it, they could take it back to avoid the heat. The summer is very hot. Ha ha. What the hell? You call this a treasure? Suffering from cultivation deviation? Which idiot would willingly suffer from cultivation deviation? Master Fong, you can keep it for yourself to avoid the heat. The people in the hall laughed crazily. The old man was crazy about money. He took out a useless thing. To avoid the heat? To calm the nerves of a person who suffers from cultivation deviation? This is simply ridiculous. If you throw on the street, no one will pick it up. However, this thing is really cold. The room is about to freeze. Qin Hao's spirit shook as he stood up from the chair. After waiting for so long, the ice elemental bead was the ideal fire control tool. As long as it was there, he would be able to safely swim across the lake and retrieve the red lotus fire in the boulder. Thinking of this, Qin Hao could not help but become excited. He had to get the ice elemental bead. I'll take it. Since you're an old friend, I'll give you 2,000 taels of silver. A voice shouted before Qin Hao. Qin Hao turned his head and saw that it was indeed a small world. It was actually the Lupus mercenary group. Moreover, it was their leader, Shi Tainom's father, Shi Haoqi. Shi Haoqi's face was very pale. His hair was also messy. It was obvious that he was suffering from cultivation deviation. A while ago, his son went to the blazing mountain to have fun. He didn't know which bastard ate the heart of a bear or the heart of a leopard, but he killed Shi Tainom and stripped him naked. Shi Haoqi only had one son, and he was the only one in 8 generations. He was like a precious treasure to him. When the news came, he was in the middle of a breakthrough and almost suffered from cultivation deviation. Not only did he fail to break through, but he was also suffering from the shock of losing his son. Now, he was in desperate need of the ice elemental bead. When the people in the hall heard that Shi Haoqi was going to bid for the ice elemental bead, their laughter immediately stopped. There was really someone who suffered from cultivation deviation. However, no one dared to provoke this person. The Wolf mercenary group had the worst reputation. In some ways, Shi Haoqi was even more vicious than Zhang Meng. Captain Shi, you really have a good eye for treasures. Thank you, thank you. Master Fong thanked him profusely. Finally, there was someone who was stupid enough to take the ice elemental bead. He was the one who picked up the bead. He was overjoyed and thought that it was a treasure. He took it home and studied it for a long time. However, he didn't find anything special about it. Shi Haoqi's only son was killed by someone. He almost suffered from cultivation deviation at the critical moment of his breakthrough. Who else could he hurt? His son was spoiled since he was young. He was going to inherit the position of leader in the future. However, he was killed by someone. Master Fong's heart skipped a beat when he thought about it. He didn't know who had done this earth-shattering thing. If Shi Haoqi caught that person, he would be skinned alive. 3,000 taels of silver. Just as Master Fong was about to give the bead to Shi Haoqi, a voice suddenly rang out. Master Fong turned his head. It was Qin Hao who was in the corner. Suddenly, he was overjoyed. The god of fortune was here again. Shi Haoqi's face darkened. He was familiar with Qin Hao. He knew that the young man had tricked Hai Fei Zi and angered Zhang Meng. Now, he wanted to go against him. Was he an idiot? He offended so many people at the same time. Do you want to die? 5,000 taels of silver. Shi Haoqi continued to raise the price. His gloomy face seemed to be telling Qin Hao, if you want to die, I don't mind sending you to hell. 6,000 taels of silver. Qin Hao wouldn't back down. At this point, he would die if he offended 2 or 3 people. Besides, he couldn't wait to get the red lotus fire back. He immediately raised the price. Bang! Shi Haoqi slammed the table. His eyes were full of murderous intent. Chapter 56. Translator, Transin editor. Transin's identity was exposed. 10,000 taels. If it weren't for Qi Daxiong, Shi Haoqi would have sent Qin Hao to the afterlife. 20,000 taels. Qin Hao said in a low voice. 25,000 taels. 30,000 taels. 35,000 taels. The price continued to rise. No one was willing to give up. The surrounding people broke out in cold sweat for Qin Hao. This kid had offended Zhang Ming and now Shi Haoqi. It was just a broken bead. How could he risk his life for it? Zhou Shantong, who was standing behind Shi Haoqi, frowned. He squinted his rat eyes and looked at Qin Hao. He felt that this youth's face was somewhat familiar. He seemed to have heard his voice somewhere before. 40,000 taels, 45,000 taels, creak. Qin Hao clenched his fists. He did not have enough money. In order to take the life-replenishing grass from Zhang Ming, he had already used up 130,000 taels. He only had 40,000 taels left. Now, Shi Haoqi shouted out a bid of 45,000 taels. Kid, I don't care where you came from. I want the ice elemental bead. If you really have the money, continue bidding. Shi Haoqi squeezed through his teeth. In order to avenge his son, he had to bid for the ice elemental bead to suppress the chaotic energy in his body. Then, he would find the culprit and cut him into 1,000 pieces. This reckless kid in front of him would die a horrible death. Shi Haoqi could tell that Qin Hao's money had reached its limit. He was not as rich as he seemed. Brother, do you not have enough money? Xiaowa asked. He thought that Qin Hao would have some backup funds. Yes. Qin Hao nodded. He was indeed out of money. Then, an idea flashed in his mind. He said to Xiaowa, Brother, lend me some money. Stop fooling around. I don't have money. Xiaowa was embarrassed. Dear, I'm young and forgot to bring money. Then, lend me 2 major origin pills. Qin Hao stretched out his hand, his face full of smiles. Xiaowa was a hidden tycoon. He had more money than anyone else. He was so rich that he was practically flowing with oil. Oh, I understand now. Xiaowa was suddenly enlightened. Qin Hao was prepared to throw medicinal pills at him. However, what? You don't want to? Qin Hao was slightly stunned. Yes, of course I'm willing. Is 2 enough? I'll give you 3. Xiaowa thought that there were rules in the auction, and perhaps they didn't allow people to exchange items for items. Since Big Brother had spoken, they had to do as he said. Then, he took out the Sumeru pouch from behind him and reached in with his hand. Then, he pulled out 3 major primal pills and handed them to Qin Hao. Boom! At this moment, everyone in the hall was shocked. A spatial artifact. Immediately, pairs of greedy eyes stared at Xiaowa's Sumeru pouch, saliva almost flowing out of their mouths. Haifei Zi and Zhang Ming immediately stood up. Shi Haoqi's eyes were as wide as a toad's. This time, even Qi Daxiong was moved. He couldn't help but look at Qin Hao. Spatial artifacts were extremely precious. There were only 10 of them in the entire Jiang nation, and all of them were in the hands of the sect leaders. Was it the will of the heavens for it to appear here? Wasn't it deliberately seducing people to commit a crime? The explosive Flame City was the most chaotic place in the Jiang nation. Killing people and robbing treasures were a common occurrence. And this spatial artifact was in the hands of a child. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. Oh no! Qin Hao knew that things were not going well. Xiaowa was still young and inexperienced. How could he take out a spatial artifact in front of so many people? When Qin Hao used his spatial ring, he even used his clothes to cover it. Now, he was surrounded by greedy eyes. They were like wild beasts that were ready to pounce. Everyone's aura pressed down on him at the same time. Grandmaster Fong, 40,000 taels of silver and 3 major primal pills. Can I exchange them for your ice elemental bead? The situation was critical. Qin Hao only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Of course, Grandmaster Fong was so happy that he almost fainted. A major primal pill was extremely precious and was a superior medicinal pill. Not to mention 3, 1 was enough. The ice elemental bead was picked up and was useless. Exchanging it for 3 major primal pills was a wonderful thing. Furthermore, Qin Hao gave him 40,000 taels of silver for free. At this moment, even if someone else gave Grandmaster Fong 200,000 taels of silver, he would not miss out on a major primal pill. Since that is the case, we will meet again. My brother is too righteous. Everyone, I wish you all the best. Qin Hao took the major primal pill and was about to exchange it. He muttered, trying to divert the attention of others. However, Xiaowa started to chatter. Big brother, why are you being so polite with me? Righteousness is the most important thing in the pugilistic world. Let me tell you, my dream is to get rid of violence and bring peace to the people. I want to help an old lady cross the road. Thump. Zhou Shintong's heart skipped a beat. Why did it sound so familiar? Help an old lady cross the road. He scratched his head and thought hard. Faintly, the figure of a person from half a month ago appeared in his mind. That person was also a child. He was very eloquent and talked endlessly. His saliva even shot up to the sky. Boom! Zhou Shentong's body stiffened. He suddenly realized that Qin Hao was a teenager and Xiaoguo was a child. Could it be that they were Li Xiao Yao? Who's calling me? Qi Xiaohua didn't even think about it before answering. Oh no! Qin Hao saw that the situation was not good. He snatched the ice elemental bead from Grandmaster Fong's hand and kicked the old man in the face. Grandmaster Fong let out a strange cry and rolled off the stage. Qin Hao quickly retreated. After getting off the stage, he picked up Xiaohua and rushed towards the door. Thief! Don't you dare run. Die! Zhou Shintong screamed. How could he give Qin Hao a chance to escape? He attacked with his full power of the third tier of Element Gathering tier. This attack happened to hit the door, blocking Qin Hao's escape route. Qin Hao used the water wind steps and dodged the attack in a precarious situation. Unfortunately, he also lost his only chance to escape. What's going on? Cheetah Xiong stood up, his face pale. Sure Haoqi was also shocked. Things happened too suddenly. Everyone was still in shock from the space magic tool and had not reacted yet. He looked angrily at Zhou Shintong. Was he crazy? He shouted like a pig being slaughtered and attacked when he wanted to. Although he was angry, Sure Haoqi still sympathized with Zhou Shintong. His brother also died a while ago. Because of their ugly looks, Zhou Shintong and Zhou Badong were often mocked since they were young. The two brothers relied on each other and were very close. Zhou Buotong's death was also a big blow to Zhou Shintong. However, you should think carefully before acting crazy. What if you angered Cheetah Xiong? Captain, you don't know. These two bastards are my sworn enemies. They kill my brother. Although they disguised themselves, they couldn't fool my eyes. Not only that, they also killed young Captain. Zhou Shintong's words shocked everyone to death. He pointed at Qin Hao and gnashed his teeth in anger. He recounted everything that had happened in the erupting flame mountain range. At that time, he was searching for Bai Zihua and accidentally bumped into Qin Hao, who was being chased. This bastard tricked old man with his sweet words. I was eager for revenge and didn't think too much. I actually helped him defeat the enemy. Zhou Shintong regretted it so much. If it wasn't for Da Hu, who played with pigs, telling him that Qin Hao killed Shi Taino, he still didn't know that Bai Zihua was Li Xiao Yao. What? Shi Haoqi's body shook and his eyes became bloodshot. He had searched high and low for him. His son's killer was right in front of him. I've been looking for you for a long time. Today's a big show. Chapter 57. What is there to fear from enemies all over the world? Qin Hao was the one who killed Shi Haoqi's son. Zhang Ming knew better than anyone else how much Shi Haoqi loved his son. However, as the supervisor of the black market auction, Qi Daxiong wanted to see how Qi Daxiong would deal with Shi Haoqi, since Shi Haoqi was making trouble in his place. Perhaps it would be a fight between the Raging Bear mercenary group and the Lupus mercenary group. The scene would be spectacular. There's no need to say anything else. Boss Qi, I know that I've hurt your reputation today. After this, I'm willing to compensate you. No matter how much money I have to spend, even if I have to kneel down and kowtow, I'll definitely kill this person. Shi Haoqi said with bloodshot eyes. Then he looked at the Sumeru pouch in Xiaoguo's hand and sneered. Zhang Ming, don't you need the life replenishing grass? Boss Qi, you're also tempted by that spatial artifact, right? Today, I only want to kill. I don't want anything else. I have no objections. The corners of Zhang Ming's mouth slowly rose. Qi Daxiong was silent for a moment. He looked at Xiaoguo with his sharp eyes and said coldly, Do it. Don't bleed too much and dirty the place. Thank you both. Shi Haoqi cupped his hands in front of his chest and slowly pressed down on Qin Hao. Boy, how should I kill you? First chop off the limbs, then skin and pull out the tendons? No, 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 that's too bloody. It'll dirty this room. I'll chop you into pieces. As he spoke, his aura exploded. He was actually a martial artist in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Sure, Haochi glared at Qin Hao as if he could spit fire. Blue veins popped up on his neck. It was obvious that he was extremely angry. The surrounding people quickly moved aside. Sure, Haochi was cruel, but he loved his son very much. He remembered that there was once an outsider who couldn't stand Shi Tainong's bullying behavior and slapped him in the face. However, when Shi Haochi heard about it, he rushed to the scene and dismembered the foreigner. Not only that, he even ran thousands of miles away and slaughtered his entire family. Now that this young man had killed Shi Tailong, the consequences were unimaginable. Big brother, I'm really sorry. It's because of me again. Xiaogu's face was filled with regret. It was he who had accidentally let slip and showed off his Sumeru pouch, thus exposing their identities and causing Qin Hao to fall into a dangerous situation. Otherwise, Qin Hao would definitely be able to escape unscathed. What's there to be sorry about? We're brothers, and brothers should face difficulties together. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect you this time. Find a chance to run later and don't look back. I'll open a bloody path for you. Qin Hao looked around vigilantly and carefully pulled Xiaogu back. The situation before his eyes was very similar to that of 600 years ago. Everyone in the hall was his enemy. The difference was, 600 years ago, Qin Hao had the cultivation of Emperor Yuan. In a one-on-one fight, no one was his match. Right now, Shi Haochi, Zhang Ming, and Qi Daxiong could easily crush him 1,000 times over. Qin Hao couldn't even beat Zhou Shentong. Thinking of this, Qin Hao couldn't help but laugh at himself. He must have been blind in his previous life to become sworn brothers with a beast. In this life, he finally had a brother that he could confide in. Unfortunately, he couldn't even protect this brother of his. Big brother. Xiaogu was so touched that he wanted to cry. At this time, Qin Hao was still thinking about him. Save your tears and cry to the king of hell. None of you can escape today. Hand over your lives. Shi Haochi roared and poured his essence energy into his fists. A strong wind blew around his fists as he punched fiercely. Let's go. Qin Hao couldn't avoid it. He pushed Xiaogu away with all his might, but he condensed his golden finger and ran toward Shi Haochi. Everyone in the hall closed their eyes, unable to bear to watch this cruel scene. It was too tragic, too touching. No matter what, this young man was a good man who valued friendship and loyalty. Good people didn't live long, but bad people lived for 1,000 years. Damn it. Wait a minute. Seeing that Qin Hao and Shi Tainong were about to collide, suddenly, a figure that looked like a fat pig suddenly barged in and stood between them. It was Hai Fei Zi. You F*** king wanna die. Shi Haochi cursed. He forced himself to withdraw his fist, which almost crushed Hai Jiufu's head. After he withdrew his fist, the chaotic qi in his body became even more serious. His face turned green, and he showed signs of qi deviation again. I'm sorry. This bastard cheated me of 200,000 taels of silver. Everyone has the right to punish him. Please give me a chance to prove myself. Captain Shi. Hai Fei Zi quickly apologized. He didn't come to save Qin Hao out of kindness. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take revenge. Spit, shameless. In an instant, countless spittle was spat out from the crowd. Hai Jiufu was shameless to the extreme. The two young men were already very pitiful. In order to show off, he even added fuel to the fire. It was disgusting to watch. Shi Haochi's face twitched a few times. He gritted his teeth and said, "Don't kill him." Hai Fei Zi was the #1 figure in Exploding Flame City. He was rich and had a big brother behind him. Even if Shi Haochi didn't want to, he had to give him face. Of course, Hai Fei Zi was only allowed to humiliate Qin Hao. Shi Haochi wouldn't let Qin Hao die easily. He would torture him before he died. You didn't expect to fall into my hands, did you? How dare you compete with me in terms of wealth? You must be tired of living. Hai Fei Zi showed off in front of Qin Hao. He put his hands on his waist and was very proud. Hurry the F***CK up. Sure Haoqi was already impatient. Hai Fei Zi was too talkative. Understood, understood. Hai Jufu's face was full of helplessness. Don't you have a show-off before you start? I'm just following the procedure. He waved his hand and said, Dao Ba, come over here and teach him a lesson for me. Humph, my fists have been thirsty for a long time. Scarface squeezed out of the crowd while rubbing his fists. Before the auction started, he didn't like Qin Hao who dared to sit in front of him. Later, when Qin Hao tricked Hai Fei Zi, the people in the hall clapped and cheered. Scarface felt that his dignity was trampled on. Qin Hao offended his honorable brother-in-law. Obviously, he didn't give face to Scarface. Then, Qin Hao took out an inner elixir of an iron-armored tiger. Scarface was even more jealous. What did he mean by taking out an inner elixir of an iron-armored tiger? Are you rich? Are you very capable? At that moment, he didn't feel good. How could he tolerate a country bumpkin jumping on his head? Now it was time to show everyone what he was capable of. You must be very nervous when you see me. Actually, you're scared to death. You don't have any strength. You're just a useless bum. Come on, hit me. Hit me in the face. I'll give you a chance to show off. Let me feel your anger. Scarface walked in front of Qin Hao and grabbed his hand to slap his face. Qin Hao was helpless. He had seen stupid people, but he had never seen someone so stupid. All right, I'll let you feel my anger. Bang! Qin Hao punched out. The strength of body tempering stage 8 was like a flood that broke through a dam. It landed on Scarface's mouth and made his teeth fall out. With one punch, Scarface was sent flying 5 to 6 meters away and crashed heavily into the crowd, knocking down a large portion of the crowd. Many people cried for their parents, saying that their waists were broken and their legs sprained. Scarface didn't get up. He felt that Qin Hao's punch was like a bison's hooves kicking his head. He fainted on the spot. Aya, my poor brother-in-law. Chapter 58. Bloodstained Manor. In an instant, Hai Fei Zi's men swarmed forward and besieged Qin Hao. The hatred in their hearts was no less than Scarface's. Qin Hao had once described them as worse than dogs. This group consisted of body tempering stage 5, body tempering stage 6, body tempering stage 7, and 2 body tempering stage 8. They were ganging up on Qin Hao alone, and they were even holding weapons. How shameless! Qin Hao executed waterwind steps and weaved through the crowd, appearing to be at ease. Seizing the opportunity, he struck out with the golden finger fiercely. Every time, he knocked down one of them without missing a single shot. His moves were superb, making everyone dumbfounded. Good lad. I wonder which family this child is from. He can still remain calm in the face of such a dense siege. Didn't you notice that there wasn't even a single injury on his body? How old is this boy? What a good seedling. Everyone couldn't help but praise him. Many people even admired Qin Hao from the bottom of their hearts. What a pity. Qi Daxiong shook his head. Even if Qin Hao showed an extraordinary side, he would still die without a doubt. Qi Daxiong could clearly see that Qin Hao was only at body tempering stage 8. However, the advantage was that the moves were extremely exquisite. Every time he made a move, his grasp was incomparably precise. The power of the finger technique also far surpassed that of ordinary martial arts. Sure Haoqi was a martial artist in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Qin Hao and Sure Haoqi were worlds apart. It was like an egg hitting a rock. At this moment, Qi Daxiong's eyes were filled with regret. If his son was by his side, he would not be much younger than Qin Hao. He was about the same age as the kid beside him. Qi Daxiong looked at Xiaogua. On the other side, Hai Jufu sent out all his thugs, vowing to avenge Scarface. In the end, everyone's jaws dropped. Forget about revenge. In less than the time it took to drink a cup of tea, his thugs fell to the ground one after another, their corpses lying in a pile. This made Hai Jufu extremely terrified. Qin Hao was about to reach him. This young man was too terrifying. Protect the Emperor. Quickly protect the Emperor. Commander Sure is here to protect the Emperor. Hai Fei Zi was scared out of her wits. She crawled toward Sure Haoqi and hugged his leg tightly. I'll protect your mother. Sure Haoqi raised his foot and kicked Hai Fei Zi in the face. He was furious. How dare you ask me to protect you? So many people couldn't even get rid of a little bastard. Why don't they go eat sh*t? Let me. With a furious roar, Zhou Shantong attacked. He knew that once Sure Haoqi showed up, he would lose the chance to take revenge on Qin Hao forever. Immediately, a palm shot towards Qin Hao's heart. It was the same palm that he had used against the assassin He Sha. That palm strike had once forced He Sha to retreat 5 or 6 steps. Good timing. Qin Hao did not evade, and brazenly went up to meet him. In fact, he could not avoid Zhou Shintong's thunder palm. Qin Hao did not dare to hold back when fighting against an 8th-tier body-tempering realm martial artist against a 3rd-tier essence-gathering realm martial artist. His fingers glowed, and the purple meteorite sword was taken out from his spatial ring. Seeing this, countless screams came from the hall. No one expected Qin Hao to take Zhou Shintong's palm, strike head-on with his body. Puchi! The sword flashed. As expected, Qin Hao was sent flying by Zhou Shintong's palm strike. Along the way, blood splattered all over the hall. However, Zhou Shintong was not any better. He screamed in pain as his arm was chopped off by Qin Hao. It was a move that traded injury for injury, a move that risked his life. At this moment, everyone present was shocked. This young man was so powerful that he gave off the aura of a hero. Brother, Xiaogu was already in tears. He saw Qin Hao rolling on the ground. His clothes were tattered, and there was a dark purple palm print on his chest. Idiot, run. Why didn't you run? Qin Hao swallowed the blood in his throat. His body trembled as he struggled to stand up with the help of the purple meteorite sword. However, he quickly shielded Xiaogu behind him. My arm, my arm. Zhou Shantong was in so much pain that he wanted to die. His right arm was chopped off from the shoulder by Qin Hao. Although he had struck Qin Hao with his palm, he had lost an arm. In comparison, he was obviously at a disadvantage. However, this was not important. What shocked Zhou Shantong was that palm strike did not kill Qin Hao. Rushing Thunder Palm was his specialty. Qin Hao was only in the 8th tier of body-tempering realm, but he was able to withstand an attack from a 3rd-tier essence-gathering realm martial artist. His body was so tough. Moreover, Zhou Shantong had already prepared his defense. He used his thick origin chi to protect his body. However, the short sword in Qin Hao's hand broke through his shield effortlessly and chopped off his arm like tofu. What kind of sword was that? Where did the sword come from? Could it be a sharp weapon? Zhou Shantong gritted his teeth and blurted out. Not only that, the ring on his hand is a spatial artifact. Sure Haoqi's eyes shone with a burning light as he stared at the ring on Qin Hao's hand. He saw clearly that the ring glowed, and a short sword appeared in Qin Hao's hand. The whole movement was so smooth that it even confused Zhou Shantong, who was in the essence-gathering realm. This young man was too scary. He could not be allowed to live. Surprises after surprises. I want a spatial artifact. Sure Haoqi, do you have any objections? Zhang Meng said with a smile. I have objections. A strong voice rang out. It was not Sure Haoqi. It was Qi Daxiong. Zhang Meng's smile froze on his face. It was embarrassing to be refuted in front of so many people, even if the person who refuted him was Qi Daxiong. I want the ring and the Sumera pouch. I'll take both of them. Qi Daxiong's tone was unquestionable. A spatial artifact was too precious. Qin Hao's ring was obviously more valuable than the Sumera pouch. How could Qi Daxiong give it to someone else? You want to take both of them in one go? You have a big appetite. Zhang Meng's face was full of unwillingness. If your fist is harder than mine, you could take both of them. I'm afraid you won't be able to take them. Qi Daxiong did not give Zhang Meng any face. He looked at him sharply and even took a threatening step forward. Zhang Meng was so angry that his chest heaved violently. He was holding back his anger. This was the first time he saw someone's spatial artifact being a ring. It was very rare. Qin Hao might have some powerful force behind him. Qi Daxiong wanted to take both of them. Was he not afraid of being stuffed to death? I'm only as ambitious as I am capable. I don't need you to remind me of that. Qi Daxiong ordered Sure Haoqi. Hurry up and deal with him before there are more problems. Sure Haoqi nodded and was about to do it himself. He glanced at Zhou Shentong and said, "You're embarrassing yourself. Get out of here." Zhou Shentong was a martial artist in the third tier of element gathering tier. He had overwhelming strength, but he lost an arm to Qin Hao, who was only in the 8th tier of body tempering tier. Zhou Shentong did not dare to disobey Shi Haoqi's orders. He glared at Qin Hao with hatred, gritted his teeth, and retreated unwillingly. "Brat, allow me to end you. I'll treat you gently and mercifully. I'll return the pain my son suffered to you 100 times, 1,000 times." Shi Haoqi slowly pulled out a broadsword from his back. It was an extraordinary broadsword. Since Qin Hao's sword could break through Zhou Shentong's energy shield, it was at least a high-grade, refined weapon. Its power was not to be underestimated. The fact that he cut off Zhou Shentong's arm was the best proof. However, it was also clear that Qin Hao was a difficult person to deal with. But that was the end of it. The broadsword in Shi Haoqi's hand was also a high-grade, refined weapon. Chapter 59. My son is dead. Seeing Shi Haoqi attack, everyone retreated far away. A 5th tier of element gathering tier killing an 8th tier of body tempering tier was no surprise. That young man was practically a dead man. "Big brother, don't scare me." Xiaogua held Qin Hao with tears in his eyes. Qin Hao's body was trembling violently. It was obvious that he was severely injured. Traces of blood kept appearing at the corner of his mouth. Xiaogua knew that Zhou Shentong's attack caused Qin Hao to bleed profusely, but his big brother had stubbornly swallowed it back down. "Listen up, Brother Gua. My body has been destroyed. I can't take a second hit. Run, or run. There's no chance." Qin Hao warned for the last time. If not for the fact that he had cultivated the art of indestructible reincarnation, which made his body much stronger than others, Zhou Shentong would have killed him long ago. Even so, Qin Hao definitely couldn't take a second hit. He was extremely weak now. "How can I leave you behind? I can't. Get lost, you'll get me killed, do you understand? You're a burden. I told you to get lost. Did you hear me?" Qin Hao yelled at Xiaogua. This was the first time he was so angry at Xiaogua. "I know. I'll listen." Xiaogua slowly let go of Qin Hao's hand. As long as he stayed here, Qin Hao wouldn't be able to escape. Only if he escaped first would Qin Hao be able to put his all into the fight. Only then would he have a chance to escape, even if the chance was very slim. "Good brother." Qin Hao patted Xiaogua's head and forced a smile. "You'll become a peerless master. You'll realize your dream and travel the world." As he spoke, Qin Hao's aura became stronger. He stared at Shi Tainong like a leopard and gripped the purple meteorite sword tightly. So what if the enemy was strong? So what if there were more? So what if he had a grudge against the world? So what if he had a mountain of knives or a sea of fire? If you fight, then fight. Even if he had to die, he wouldn't let his enemies have an easy time. "Little bastard, King admire your courage." Shi Haoqi admired Qin Hao for some reason, and then he raised his broadsword mercilessly. For a moment, the atmosphere was so tense that it was almost suffocating. "Spare him." He was stunned. A loud shout was heard, disrupting the situation. Hu Jun rushed into the hall with his men. He finally heard the commotion inside and rushed over anxiously. The moment he entered, he was stunned by the scene before him. The venue was in a mess. There was a pile of corpses lying on the ground, all at the feet of Qin Hao. Qin Hao's clothes were torn and tattered. The enemy's blood stained his body, making him look like a bloody man. Shi Haoqi raised his broadsword above Qin Hao's head. The situation that Hu Jun was most worried about still happened. The Lupus mercenary group still recognized Qin Hao. But, as Xiaogua's father, why didn't Lord Qi make a move? "Brother Hua, this is none of your business. Get out." Qin Hao immediately asked Hu Jun to leave. He didn't want Hu Jun to get involved in this matter. "How can this be? Didn't we agree not to cause trouble?" Hu Jun asked stupidly. "Who the F***CK do you think you are? Do you want to die?" Shi Haoqi glared at him and shouted fiercely. "How dare a lowly guard stop me from taking revenge? Hu Jun, take your men and leave. Guard your post." Qi Daxiong's face showed a trace of displeasure. Lord Protector, you can't be so heartless. Brother Qin is my benefactor. Even if you don't care about him, you should at least care about him. Please save him. Moreover, Xiaogua is your son. Huijun was extremely flustered. He saw Xiaogua and push him out. Even if you don't care about him, you should care about him. What do you have to care about? Qi Daxiong didn't reply. He just stood there in silence. At this moment, a strong man who was only a fist shorter than Qi Daxiong stood out and scolded Huijun. This man was the real leader of the Furious Bear mercenary group, Ren Taiju. If we didn't take you in, you would have been dead. How dare you run out here shamelessly? As for my brother's son? Ha ha! Ren Taiju held his stomach and laughed wildly. My brother doesn't have a son. His son died when he was 6 years old. Boom! Huijun felt as if he was struck by lightning. His heart fell into a bottomless abyss. How could the Lord Protector not have a son? In fact, it wasn't a secret that Qi Daxiong didn't have a son. Everyone in the Furious Bear mercenary group knew about it. However, Xiaogua told Huijun that he wanted to give his father a surprise. Therefore, Huijun didn't dare to spread the news. He didn't ask anyone in the Furious Bear mercenary group either. He only told Qi Daxiong secretly. Now, Qi Daxiong said that he didn't have a son. Why? Why did you lie to me? Huijun's face was ashen. It's simple. Anyone who dares to impersonate my son must die. Qi Daxiong lifted his cloak and looked at Qi Xiaogua with a murderous look. He wanted to lure this kid out. However, Xiaogua was not afraid at all. There was even a trace of resentment in his eyes. Thump! Huijun knelt on the ground weakly. His face was full of pain. He was tricked. He was used by Qi Daxiong. I'm sorry, Brother Qin. I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have come to this place and lost your lives. I forced you to tell me about the black market auction. This has nothing to do with you. Brother Hua, leave now. Think about your brothers who have lost their lives. Their families still need you to feed them. Qin had to not blame him. Huijun was a man of character. He did not want to implicate him. You're a smart man. Don't do anything stupid. Bring them back. Qi Daxiong waved his hand and asked Huijun to leave. If he left now, he could still live. If he didn't, he would die. Huijun looked at Qin Hao with eyes full of guilt and shame. When he was in danger, Qin Hao was the first person to lend him a helping hand. At that time, Qin Hao was just a passerby. Now, in order to save his own life, Huijun abandoned Qin Hao heartlessly. I'm a coward. I can't save you. I'm trash. Under the shadow of death, Huijun cried out helplessly. He made his choice. He turned around and walked out. He decided to stand aside and watch. He felt that he could not face Qin Hao anymore. Attack! Qi Daxiong ordered immediately. Die trash! Sure Haoqi's heavy saber slashed down, bringing with it a sharp cold light. It fell on Qin Hao's head. Let's fight! Qin Hao raised the purple meteorite sword and gritted his teeth. Clang! Gold and iron clashed, and sparks flew everywhere. Sure Haoqi was in the 5th tier of element gathering tier. His strength was strong enough to tear apart a huge rock. The first attack caused Qin Hao's blood to boil. He staggered back 5 or 6 steps. The web between his thumb and index finger was cracked. Eat my blade again. Sure Haoqi did not give Qin Hao a chance to breathe. He swung his saber diagonally. Swoosh! He slashed at Qin Hao's abdomen. Qin Hao used all his strength to protect his vital parts with a purple meteorite sword. However, the moment they touched, the sword in his hand was sent flying. His body was also sent flying like a falling leaf. Blood spurted out of his mouth without any regard for his life. In fact, Zhou Shintong's attack had destroyed Qin Hao's defense. He had been holding on until now with his willpower. Now, he could not hold on any longer. However, a smile flashed across Qin Hao's face. He saw Xiaogua slip to the door. At least he bought time for Xiaogua to escape. Qin Hao was an emperor in his previous life. He had killed countless people and done many wrong things. In this life, he swore that he would never do anything he regretted. If he had any regrets, it would be that he did not make Zhang Wu pay with his blood. He did not kick that *TCH Han Lingxian off the throne. There was also Xiao Han. Was that silly girl still waiting for him to come home? Chapter 60. Chapter 60 Divine Protector. Huh? Kid, do you regret it? Are you scared? Do you want to kowtow and beg for mercy? No way. I'm going to cut you into pieces and feed you to the dogs. Sure, Haochi jumped up and waved his broadsword at Qin Hao, who was in the air. Countless streams of blood spurted out. He was not in a hurry to kill Qin Hao with a single blow. He wanted to let Qin Hao experience the pain that Sure Tainong had suffered 100 or 1,000 times over. Only in this way could he vent the pain of losing his son. At this moment, the sky was filled with saber shadows, torn clothes, and spilled blood. Qin Hao's body was covered with tiny wounds. His body was covered with cuts and bruises, and he was covered in blood. Everyone closed their eyes. Sure, Haochi's methods were so cruel that it made people's hair stand on end. Big brother. Sayogua's eyes were filled with tears. When he arrived at the door, his face was purple with anger. He roared, "When I return to the sect, I will find my master and eldest senior brother. I will have all of you buried with my big brother. You won't have that chance." A cold voice sounded. Zhang Ming suddenly made his move. He turned into an afterimage as he rushed forward. His speed was unbelievably fast. His fist, which was wrapped in essence, ruthlessly punched towards Sayogua's head. Huajun covered his eyes in pain. This group of big shots in the exploding flame city didn't even spare a child. Bang! With a heavy muffled sound, Zhang Ming's fist landed solidly on the man's body. However, Sayogua was completely unharmed, because there was a person standing in front of him, even though this person was drenched in blood, even though he was already on the verge of collapse. However, he was like an iron wall that blocked Zhang Ming's fatal blow. I already said that I can't take a second palm strike. Run! Qin Hao used his water wind step to rush over and used his body to block Zhang Ming's fist. At this moment, a bright light flashed on his hand. The space ring transformed from the great void cauldron suddenly formed an invisible barrier, like a golden bell that surrounded Qin Hao. It blocked most of Zhang Ming's attacks and protected Qin Hao from being penetrated. Other than Qin Hao, no one else could see this illusory barrier. The divine artifact had automatically protected its owner. However, before Qin Hao could rejoice, Kacha, a small crack appeared on the ring. The great void cauldron had been sleeping for 600 years and was very weak. Even though it was a divine artifact, it showed signs of cracking under Zhang Ming's ferocious attack. Then, Qin Hao fell straight down in front of Sayogua. Zhang Ming was stunned for a moment. He didn't manage to pierce through Qin Hao's chest. Moreover, he felt as if he had been blocked by something just now. Scram! Sure, Haochi was furious. How dare Zhang Ming interfere with his business? He dashed forward like a wild bull and knocked Zhang Ming, who was in a daze, away with his shoulder. He grabbed Qin Hao's neck and lifted him up from the ground. "You want to die? Not so easy. I said that I'll make you regret being born." I regret. Qin Hao spoke in a weak voice. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil, and he was on the verge of death. "I regret making an enemy out of Sure Tainong." He said that his father is very powerful. "That's right. I'm awesome." Sure Haochi held a bloody knife in his right hand and grabbed Qin Hao's neck with his left hand. He felt a sharp pain in his heart when he thought of his son. He also said he has a group of strong subordinates. Qin Hao mocked. "That's right. The Lupus mercenary group is full of talents. Any one of them can kill you thousands of times." He also said that his father will avenge him and kill my whole family. "After I kill him, I'll kill your whole family." In the end, he begged me to let him go. He said that he was a piece of trash. He told me to let him go like a useless fart. He was like a dog. Look at how scared he was. His eyes were filled with despair. "I'm going to dig your heart out." Sure Haochi was furious. "Ha ha. He asked me to pass on his last words to you. What else did my son want? Tell me, what did he want?" He said, "My father is an old bastard. He begged me to kill you so that I can go to hell with him." "How dare you?" Sure Haochi was so angry that he almost lost his mind. He roared and slashed at Qin Hao's head with his broad knife. "Father!" In this critical moment, Qi Xiaogua shouted desperately. What did you call me?" Sure Haochi, who was acting like a madman, was stunned. He couldn't help but think of his own son when he heard the word father being called out to him. However, his son, who was like a precious egg, had been ruthlessly slaughtered by this madman before his eyes. Thinking of this, Shi Haoqi glared at Qin Hao and Qi Xiaogua even more fiercely. You little bastard, don't think that I'll let you go just because you call me father. Even if you call me grandfather or ancestor, I won't let you go. After I cripple him, you'll be next. Shi Haoqi looked at Qin Hao again and pointed his broad knife at Qin Hao's head. Uft, you old bastard, I'm not talking about you. Look at you. You lacked calcium when you were young. You lacked love when you grew up. You didn't get loved by your grandmother. Your uncle didn't love you. Your left cheek is asking for a slap. Your right cheek is asking for a kick. A donkey kicks a donkey. A pig steps on a pig, and you're covered in hemorrhoids. You're just like a crazy old dog. Qi Xiaohua also yelled angrily. She wasn't yelling at the mad dog, Shi Haoqi. She thought too highly of herself. What the hell? What did you say? Shi Haoqi was so angry that he threw Qin Hao away. He pointed at Xiaogua's nose and yelled, "Open your eyes and take a good look. I'm handsome and my fists are bigger than a water tank. Do you have such a handsome father? You don't. Look at yourself. Your face is dark and your eyes are as small as mouse poop. Your father is not much better. I think he was born in the year of the cucumber. How could he have given birth to a piece of sh*t like you? You didn't have a mother to raise you, and your father's ass has been poked by thousands of people." Shi Haoqi continued to yell at Xiaogua. He was almost spitting at Xiaogua, but he wasn't at a disadvantage. "Father, did you hear that? This crazy dog bullied me and scolded you in front of you. Not only that, he also scolded my dead mother. I don't understand why you didn't kill him." Xiaogua said again. This time, everyone saw that he was yelling at Qi Daxiong. Qi Daxiong's heart skipped a beat. He frowned, and his expression changed. "Are you scared out of your wits? I told you that my brother doesn't have a son, let alone a bastard like you." Rin Taizhu said coldly. "Bullsh***, who do you think you are? Who said that I'm dead? I want to find a master." Boo-hoo. Xiaogua started to cry as he spoke. "My mother passed away when I was born. Father said that he would love me more, but he didn't keep his promise. When I was 6, I met a master who wanted to take me as his disciple. Father said that he would take me home when I grew up, but he didn't keep his promise. My master was the head of the Heavenly Fist sect. He said that my father was the hero of the exploding flame city and that I would be a hero when I grew up. I swore in front of my master that I would practice martial arts diligently and surpass my father. 6 years passed, but my father didn't come to pick me up. I missed him so much that I hid in my quilt and cried at night. So I went down the mountain to find my father, but I came back after a long and arduous journey. But he didn't recognize me and said that I was dead. My feet were bruised. Boo-hoo! Xiaogua burst into tears. He felt so wronged that his face was wet with tears. Chapter 61. Chapter 61, The Power of Rolling. His dark skin turned white, and his small eyes grew bigger. He had a straight nose and a heroic appearance. His eyebrows resembled the majestic Qi Daxiong. Qi Daxiong's soul trembled violently, and his body began to tremble. In fact, from Xiaogua's first sentence, the doubts in his heart had been cleared. This was because no one knew that Xiaogua's mother had died of dystocia. Then, Xiaogua mentioned the Heavenly Fist sect. The person who took Xiaogua away back then was that terrifying drunkard from the Heavenly Fist sect. This was like a shot in the arm, making Qi Daxiong unable to extricate himself. The kid in front of him was definitely the son of the drunkard sect leader. Especially when he heard that Xiaogua had run down the mountain by himself, trekking through mountains and rivers, and even scraping his feet, his heart ached so much that he wanted to die. Just how much pain had his son suffered? At this moment, Xiaogua's face was wet with tears, revealing his true face. When Qi Daxiong saw him, he was so excited that his soul was about to leave his body. 6 years. 6 whole years. She missed him every day, looking forward to reuniting with her son. Now his son was right in front of him. Although his appearance had changed a lot, his heroic appearance was clearly his father's son. If anyone dares to say that this is not my baby, I will break their balls with a kick. Suddenly, Qi Daxiong unconsciously opened his hands and sobbed. Son, is it really you? I'm not dreaming, right? It's really my little melon. Woo-woo. Father, you're finally willing to acknowledge me. Xiaogua burst into tears. He couldn't help but throw himself into Qi Daxiong's arms. Everyone was terrified when they saw this scene. Oh my God, that kid was really Qi Daxiong's son. His master was the head of the Heavenly Fist sect. What was even more frightening was Shi Haoqi just called Qi Daxiong's son a bastard. Zhang Ming had almost killed him with a single palm strike. This was simply too terrifying. In an instant, Shi Tainong and Zhang Ming's faces turned pale to the roots of their necks. Even Hai Fei Zi was so scared that she hid under someone else's pants. However, at the touching moment when Xiaogua and Qi Daxiong recognized each other as father and son, something unexpected happened. Die, brat. A fat body that looked like a wild boar suddenly emerged from the crowd. He held a sharp dagger in his hand and viciously stabbed towards Xiaogua's heart. It was actually Zhou Shentong. He was holding Qin Hao's purple meteorite sword. He didn't give up any chance to take revenge after he was yelled at by Shi Haoqi. On the contrary, the hatred in his heart grew bigger and bigger. When Qin Hao was fighting with Shi Haoqi, the short sword was knocked out of his hand. He knew that this was his chance, so he quickly picked it up secretly. Then, he saw Qi Daxiong and Xiaogua recognize each other. Mother of Kerr, how could this be? Zhou Shintong's face was ashen. He knew that he might not be able to take revenge in this lifetime. The only way was to cut off all means of retreat. He immediately rushed out with his sword. His sudden attack was completely out of everyone's expectations. No one could save him in time. The blade that carried the aura of death was getting closer and closer to Xiaogua. Qin Hao, who was lying on the ground, couldn't do anything. He knew how sharp the purple meteorite sword was. On the surface, it looked like a top-grade weapon. But in reality, the purple meteorite sword's material was comparable to a holy weapon. Xiaogua was doomed. Get lost. Just as the blade was about to pierce Xiaogua's heart, a thunderous roar reverberated. The roar was so loud that the entire floor shook. Qi Daxiong was so angry that he was like a wild bear. The sound waves from his roar hit the crowd. Regardless of whether they were in the body-tempering realm or the gathering Yuan realm, they all spat out blood and were thrown out. Zhou Shenong was undoubtedly the one who was hit the most. His clothes were instantly torn to pieces by the sound waves and flew 5 meters high. Qi Daxiong's majestic, vital energy crushed Zhou Shintong's body. His fat body was squashed into a meat patty on the spot. Blood sprayed all over the wall. A martial artist in the third layer of element gathering tier was turned from a fat pig into a human skin that was as thin as paper by Qi Daxiong's roar. Qi Daxiong's strength was simply terrifying. You've disturbed our reunion. You're such an eyesore. Qi Daxiong casually scolded as if killing Zhou Shantong was nothing more than killing a wild dog. He laughed loudly and hugged Xiaogua. He pinched his son's face and said something about how he had grown taller and stronger. His amiable appearance was no different from a normal father in a normal family. After the reunion, Xiaogua suppressed his excitement and hurriedly pulled Qin Hao up from the ground. He didn't forget Qin Hao. Qin Hao's injuries weren't light. He took out healing pills and hemostatic pills from his Sumeru pouch and stuffed them into Qin Hao's mouth. After swallowing a large amount of pills, Qin Hao temporarily suppressed his injuries. But it wasn't over yet. Since Qi Daxiong was really Xiaogua's father, he wanted to see what Qi Daxiong would do next. He wanted to see how the strongest man in Exploding Flame City would vent his anger. Silence. Dead silence. It was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Although Qi Daxiong looked happy as if nothing had happened, in the eyes of others, his smile looked like it was nothing. But in the eyes of others, his smile was even more sinister than the king of hell. Everyone could feel the anger contained in his smile. Especially Shi Haoqi. Oh my God, what did he do just now? He attacked Qi Daxiong's son. He attacked the sweetheart of the #1 martial artist in Exploding Flame City. What a terrible thing that would be. Moreover, he jumped up and scolded Sayogwa. He scolded Qi Daxiong's ass and said that he deserved a beating. And Zhou Shantong, that idiot, sneakily attacked Qi Daxiong's precious son. Why didn't he jump into a cesspool and drown? Even if you want to die, don't drag me down with you. Sure, Haoqi hated Zhou Shantong so much that his legs couldn't help but tremble. Daxiong, isn't your son dead? Ren Taizhu was also frightened. So many twists and turns. It was too ridiculous. Which son of AB *TCH told you that my son is dead? Qi Daxiong turned hostile and snorted. Little Gua said it clearly. He was taken in by the head of Heavenly Fist sect as his last disciple and went to learn martial arts. Qi Daxiong's face was full of glory when he mentioned Heavenly Fist sect. When Drunkard Head took Sayogwa away, he told him again and again not to reveal the secret of Bull Demon Body, in case Sayogwa was killed by some evil people. Of course, Qi Daxiong was tight-lipped. He knew how precious Bull Demon Body was, and that his son's future was limitless. Therefore, he lied that his son was dead, and he was very cautious. Even if Sayogwa really showed up, he almost didn't recognize him. Congratulations, it's too touching. Since there's nothing else for me to do, I won't bother you anymore. Sure, Tainom was about to leave. Stop, Qi Daxiong muttered. Are you in a hurry to be reincarnated? Yes, you want to leave? Weren't you very powerful just now? Where's the courage to quarrel with me? How dare you hurt my big brother so badly? Qi Xiaohua said angrily as she supported Qin Hao. She was unforgiving. Little Gua can be reunited with Senior Qi. So what if I suffer a little? I've protected Little Gua all the way, and I've completed my mission. Although I'm almost crippled now and may have a dozen broken bones, it doesn't matter at all. It's really not a problem. Qin Hao smiled kindly at Sure Haoqi. Sure Haoqi was cursing in his heart. This kid was obviously adding insult to injury and deliberately angering Qi Daxiong. I didn't have time to teach you a lesson. At most, I made some small cuts on your body. Chapter 62. Chapter 62. Go on a killing spree. Tell me, how should we settle this? Qi Daxiong stared at Sure Haoqi with his sharp eyes. Qi Daxiong was quite satisfied with Qin Hao. During the crisis, just now, the young man was the first to let his son escape. Moreover, he had blocked several fatal attacks for Sayogwa. It was as if he didn't want his life anymore. This kind of courage, this kind of loyalty, this old man is very satisfied. He had to repay this young man. Plop. Sure Haoqi knelt down in fear. As the leader of the Lupus mercenary group, he actually knelt down. His kneeling caused everyone's jaws to drop. What dignity, what backbone. Sure Haoqi was so shameless. He knelt until the floor cracked. Boss Qi, please let me go. I really didn't know he was your son. Even if I had 100 guts, cut the crap. You hurt this young man so badly. Pay for his medical expenses first. Qi Daxiong pointed at Qin Hao and said, Senior, you're right. Actually, I do need some medical fees and compensation for mental damage. Qin Hao rubbed his nose. It was very expensive to see a doctor. I'll give. Sure Haoqi took out a stack of banknotes in a panic. He estimated that there were 200,000 taels of silver. Despite the pain on his face, his life was still the most important thing. He spent money to buy safety. Your knife looks nice. I need a long weapon. Qin Hao took the money and looked at Sure Haoqi's knife. This saber had clashed head-on with the purple meteorite sword twice, but there wasn't the slightest trace of damage on it. At the very least, it was a high-grade weapon. How could he let it go? It has accompanied me all my life. Hearing that Qin Hao wanted the saber, Sure Haoqi gritted his teeth and growled. Back then, he had paid a great price to forge the broadsword. Just like his wife, it was impossible for him to hand it over. It's just a broken saber. It's your honor that my big brother has taken a fancy to it. Hand it over. Sayogwa didn't care about anything else. He pulled Sure Haoqi and tried to snatch it. Sure Haoqi held on tightly and refused to let go. He was so angry that he wanted to curse. Cough. Qi Daxiong coughed, and his face darkened. Sure Haoqi was so scared that his hands went limp. From then on, the broadsword swaggered off. Big brother here. Xiaohua handed the saber to Qin Hao. Yes, it's quite handy. Why are you glaring at me? All right, I killed your son and took your saber. You won't come looking for trouble with me in the future, right? I'm so scared that you'll kill my whole family. Qin Hao said with a smile. He grabbed Shi Haoqi's knife and swung it twice in front of him. Shi Haoqi's heart was bleeding. However, he did plan to go to Qin Hao's house tomorrow to kill him and snatch the knife back. Qin Hao was right about this. It's easier to make enemies than to resolve them. Let's shake hands, and we'll still be good friends. You're so old, so you won't bicker with a child, right? Make an oath, Qi Daxiong said in a low voice. Shi Haoqi clenched his fists tightly. The enmity of his son's death was absolutely irreconcilable. How could he just shake hands and forget about it? However, if he didn't shake hands, as he struggled, Shi Haoqi reached his hand out to Qin Hao with bloodshot eyes. It didn't matter if his son died. He could live on even if he didn't die. Although he was old, it seemed that he had to work harder to create another person. Forget about shaking hands. You've killed too many people. I don't want to bring bad luck. Qin Hao looked at him with disdain. You win. I swear that I'll forget about all the grudges between us. We'll stay out of each other's business. If I break my oath, I'll have no descendants. Shi Haoqi made the oath. However, he seemed to have forgotten that he already had no descendants. Can I leave now? Who said you could leave? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. What else do you want? Shi Haoqi was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. He gave the money. He gave the saber. He even made the oath. He still wouldn't let him go. You've settled your grudges with my brother, but you haven't settled your grudges with me. Slap yourself 3 times in front of me and leave. Xiaohua said angrily. Qin Hao is so badly injured. He had to avenge his brother. As soon as he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. Even Shi Haoqi couldn't stand it. After all, he was the leader of the Lupus mercenary group. Kneeling in front of everyone was already his limit. The person he was kneeling to was Qi Daxiong. Shi Haoqi didn't think it was embarrassing to kneel to Qi Daxiong. However, Xiaohua wanted him to slap himself 3 times. If this spread out, he wouldn't be able to show his face in exploding Flame City anymore. Don't force me. Shi Haoqi was so angry that his body trembled. He wanted to jump up and kill someone. How dare you threaten me? Dad, he's threatening me. Xiaohua's eyes were red. He pointed at Shi Haoqi on the ground. He was about to cry. How dare you threaten my son? Qi Daxiong's eyes narrowed. A powerful aura immediately enveloped Shi Haoqi. Shi Haoqi felt his body was heavy, as if there was a mountain on his back. He couldn't raise his head. I'll slap you. I'll slap you. Slap, slap, slap. 3 loud slaps echoed in the hall. Shi Haoqi's face was completely gone. He didn't have a face to stay there anymore. He crawled on the ground and gritted his teeth. He was about to follow Xiaohua's order and leave this place. *T. Coward. Zhang Ming couldn't stand it anymore. He spat on the ground. You've got guts. Qi Daxiong's sharp eyes shifted to Zhang Ming. This old man almost killed Xiaohua with 1 punch. It's his turn now. Who are you trying to scare? Others might be scared of you, but I'm not. Come at me if you want to fight. Zhang Ming got into a fighting stance and was ready for a fight. You want me to pay? No way. Hand him my weapon? No way. Not to mention kneeling on the ground and slapping himself in the face 3 times. You're too confident. You're in trouble. Qi Daxiong sneered. You've gone too far. Let the old man test you first. Let's see if the #1 master of Exploding Flame City is just an empty title. An old man in gray flew out. He was the head elder of the Condor mercenary group, Zhang Ming's right-hand man. The moment he appeared, Qin Hao immediately judged his strength. He was in the 5th tier of Yuan Gathering tier, the same tier as Shi Haoqi. The #2 mercenary group was not just for show. The old man in gray slapped at Qi Daxiong's strong chest. His palm was filled with dense Yuan Qi. Qi Daxiong didn't bother to defend himself. He didn't even make a move. He just sneezed. Achoo! Pung! A strong force of Qi spurted out from Qi Daxiong's nostrils. It was unbelievably fast and heavily hit the old man in gray. The old man in gray was fast, but he was sent flying even faster. He was sent flying by Qi Daxiong's sneeze. Along the way, he killed 7 or 8 unlucky people. In the end, he crashed into the wall of the hall. The wall cracked from the impact. Instantly, the old man in gray slid down the wall like a pile of mud, leaving behind a large pool of blood. He couldn't be more dead. At this moment, the hall was filled with screams of horror. Too exciting, too terrifying, too frightening. Qi Daxiong killed Zhou Shantong with a roar and killed a cultivator in the 5th tier of Yuan Gathering Tier with a sneeze. Just how high had his strength reached? Lu Wei closed the door. Qi Daxiong didn't give anyone time to react. He ordered the door to be closed. He hadn't fought for many years. Everyone seemed to have forgotten how ruthless Qi Daxiong was. He was ready to kill. Rumble. The heavy door was closed mercilessly. The 2 doors were made of thousands of kilograms of dark stone. No one below Yuan Master Tier could break it. Chapter 63. A life-saving strike in an instant. The atmosphere was tense to the extreme. This was because the furious bear Imperial bodyguard had rushed into the hall and surrounded everyone. Sure, Haoqi almost scolded Zhang Meng. He had finally paid for the compensation and handed over his weapon. He was about to leave alive. This dog had purposely pissed Qi Daxiong off. Now that it had angered him, there was no way it could escape. Daxiong, what are you trying to do? Ren Tieju's expression changed. Kill. Qi Daxiong's tone was cold. We see each other all the time. Why make such a big fuss over a small matter? Ren Taiju advised. The 3 mercenary groups had been together for a long time. Now, they had shed all pretense of cordiality. For the sake of 2 young men, the Furious Bear mercenary group's combat power would be damaged. Qin Hao is just an insignificant bum. Small matter? My son was almost killed by them, and that's a small matter? Get out of my way. Qi Daxiong pushed Ren Taiju away. Even God wouldn't be able to stop him from killing. Ew. Ren Taiju was so angry that his face turned green. Qi Daxiong didn't give him any face. Ren Taiju was the leader of the Furious Bear mercenary group. Qi Daxiong obviously didn't care about him. At this moment, he felt like he had lost all face. In fact, Qi Daxiong really didn't care about him. He looked at Zhang Meng with a murderous look. He had just said that Zhang Meng would die today. He had to do what he said. Rumor has it that Qi Daxiong is the king of the Furious Bear mercenary group and is arrogant and despotic. Today, I see that it's true. You don't even care about Leader Ren. Come, do you think I'm afraid of you? There was no room for negotiation. Zhang Meng didn't hold back anymore. His aura suddenly rose, and his body was wrapped in a thick green origin chi. It was extremely shocking. Unexpectedly, he wasn't in the 7th layer of element gathering tier. His power rose bit by bit. 8th layer, 9th layer, 9th layer peak. He was actually on par with Qi Daxiong. At this moment, everyone was shocked. Zhang Meng had hidden his strength. As expected, Qin Hao had expected Zhang Meng to have a trump card. Zhang Meng Qi was fighting for the life replenishing grass to break through to the origin master tier. Father, Xiaowa couldn't help but worry. Zhang Meng wasn't any weaker than Qi Daxiong. Stop, there's still time. Ren Taiju obviously did not expect Zhang Meng to be so strong. Qi Daxiong might fail miserably and lose his reputation as the #1 expert. Thinking of this, Ren Taiju glared at Qin Hao with hatred. This brat was the main culprit. He had brought Xiaowa to the auction and caused a huge commotion. You with the surname Qi, have you been scared by me? If you really want to fight, it's hard to say who will win. Zhang Meng said confidently. Unknown, you think you're worthy? Qi Daxiong was stunned for a moment. He was indeed surprised. However, his face was once again filled with disdain. He even spat out a mouthful of saliva, spit trash. Damn it! Zhang Meng was furious. In order to reach the 9th layer of element gathering tier, he had suffered countless hardships. He cultivated day and night. He had endured until today so that he could surpass Qi Daxiong. He wanted to see Qi Daxiong's horrified expression when he found out about his strength. But now, Qi Daxiong was not only not surprised, but also mocked him. Even if he could tolerate it, his wife couldn't. Fine, fine, fine. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll let you know that I have 3 eyes on my head. Zhang Ming shouted and rushed forward with a heavy punch. This punch created a strong wind. This was his first attack after reaching the 9th layer of element gathering tier. This punch would definitely kill Qi Daxiong. Everyone screamed and ran away in panic. Sure, Hao Qi also took the opportunity to hide. When 2 tigers fought, one would be injured. Zhang Ming might not be Qi Daxiong's opponent, but he could still cripple him. It would be best if both of them died. In this way, the Lupus mercenary group would be the dominant force. However, what everyone didn't expect was, facing Zhang Ming's full force attack, Qi Daxiong didn't even make a move. He didn't even resist. Zhang Ming smiled. Qi Daxiong must have been scared silly. He actually didn't resist. Good, I'll kill him with 1 punch. Let everyone see how powerful I am. Tremble. Scream. Tremble. He was already imagining Qi Daxiong's chest being pierced. A victorious smile even appeared on Zhang Ming's face. Pung. The fist accurately hit Qi Daxiong's pectoral muscles, but it didn't penetrate Qi Daxiong's chest. Zhang Ming's full force attack only left a red mark on Qi Daxiong's chest. Qi Daxiong didn't even spit out blood. He only relied on the defense of his muscles to block all the attacks of a martial artist in the 9th layer of element gathering tier. How is this possible? Zhang Ming was extremely shocked. Nothing is impossible. Even trash like you who stands on the street can reach the 9th layer of element gathering tier from the 7th layer of element gathering tier. I've reached the Yuan Master tier long ago. Qi Daxiong stood there calmly, like an immovable Mount Tai. A strong aura erupted from his body like a tsunami, causing the whole building to shake violently. The green energy on his body instantly turned green. Green energy was the symbol of the Yuan Master tier. However, the green energy surrounding Qi Daxiong seemed a bit thin. It was obvious that he had just broken through and was only a 1-star Yuan Master. Even so, it still scared Zhang Ming. The difference between the Yuan Master tier and the Yuan Gathering tier was huge. It was a qualitative leap. Die. Qi Daxiong also threw a punch at Zhang Ming's head. A strong aura of death rushed towards him. If this punch landed, Zhang Ming's head would definitely explode. Brother, don't worry. I'll help you. Suddenly, Ren Taizhu also attacked. He used the power of the 8th layer of element gathering tier without holding back and viciously slapped at Qi Daxiong's back. It happened so fast that everyone's mind short-circuited. They couldn't understand why Ren Taizhu attacked Qi Daxiong. They were obviously in the same group, and it was a shameless sneak attack from the back. At this moment, they didn't have time to think about this question, because Ren Taizhu's death-pressing palm was about to hit Qi Daxiong's back. No matter how strong Qi Daxiong was, he would definitely be severely injured. Go! In a split second, Qin Hao raised his hand and threw out his broad saber. Swoosh! The broad saber arrived before Ren Taizhu, even though it was launched later. Ren Taizhu was shocked. This was sure Hao Qi's Yama saber, a top-grade refined weapon. It could easily break through his Yuan Qi. The scene of Qin Hao cutting off Zhou Shintong's arm with the purple meteorite sword was still vivid in his mind. The broadsword sharpness was not much worse than the purple meteorite sword. Ren Taizhu immediately withdrew his palm and somersaulted backwards to dodge the attack. He could dodge Qin Hao's saber, but he couldn't dodge the angry kick. Qi Daxiong obviously didn't expect Ren Taizhu's sneak attack. He grabbed Zhang Ming's neck and rushed over, kicking Ren Taizhu in the face. Ren Taizhu's 8-foot-tall body was thrown out like a cannonball and landed heavily on the door of the hall. 2 doors made of dark stone that weighed 1,000 kilograms were smashed into the ground. It was obvious how terrifying Qi Daxiong's strength was after breaking through to the Yuan Master tier. What? Qi Daxiong asked angrily. At the same time, he looked at Qin Hao gratefully. If Qin Hao hadn't reacted quickly and saved his life, the consequences would have been unimaginable. After all, Qi Daxiong had just broken through, and his Yuan Master tier hadn't stabilized yet. Chapter 64. Chapter 64, Xiao Han in danger. You son of a bitch. You're a traitor. What a sinister sneak attack on Brother Qi. Big Brother Qi has treated you well. Back then, he took a blow for you. You are biting the hand that feeds you. The 5 elders of the Wild Bear mercenary group were incomparably furious. All of them pointed at Ren Tieju's nose and cursed. If it wasn't for Qi Daxiong, Ren Taiju would have died a long time ago. Shut up. Ren Taiju was kicked. His face was swollen like a pig's head. He was very agitated. Looking at the group of old brothers in front of him, no one was willing to speak up for him. He gritted his teeth and pointed at Qi Daxiong. Treat me well, Tui. He's just a protector. I'm the leader. Do you understand? I'm the boss of the Wild Bear mercenary group. I've tolerated him for a long time. I've tolerated him too much. I've lived in fear every day, afraid that he would steal my position as the leader. You've finally shown your true colors today. You must have been waiting for this moment for a long time, right? Ren Taiju looked at Qi Daxiong with a silly smile. His heart was filled with bitterness, disappointment, and unwillingness. Even though he was the commander, everyone obeyed Qi Daxiong. This made Ren Taiju feel very uncomfortable. Since he had failed, the worst that could happen was death. Leave? Qi Daxiong remained silent for a while, and then sighed. What? Let him go. No. The crowd stopped Ren Taiju. They did not understand why Qi Daxiong was doing this. Ren Taiju was stunned. He thought he had misheard. After all, his sneak attack had almost succeeded. Leave? Qi Daxiong repeated himself and said with a bit of disappointment, I've never thought of snatching your position as the leader, and there's no need for me to do so. Think about who was the first person our brothers recommended to be the leader. I was the one who gave the position to you first. You said that you've tolerated me for a long time, but haven't I? Look at what you've done all these years. You are so licentious that you don't care about the life and death of your brothers. Our brother, Lu Xiaofei, died in an accident when he was carrying out a mission. You didn't even go to his house to take a look. It was I who stood up for you. Leave. Qi Daxiong waved his hand. Don't let me see you again. This is the only time. If you dare to hurt my people again, I will kill you. At this moment, Qin Hao could deeply understand Qi Daxiong's feelings. Pain and disappointment. Back then, Qin Hao was also betrayed by Zhang Wu. Speaking of which, it was really funny. When these people were in dire straits, they would call him their brother. Wait until you've trained them. They think you're in the way. They had completely forgotten who had helped them in the past. Who was it that gave them food to eat when they were pitiful? This was the so-called ingrate, an insatiable dog, a greedy dog. Ren Taiju finally didn't have the face to stay any longer. Following the Wild Bear mercenary group, he left with his tail between his legs. Before he left, he glared at Qin Hao with hatred. If it wasn't for Qin Hao's sudden attack, he would have succeeded in his sneak attack. It could be said that Qin Hao's attack had completely changed Ren Tieju's life. It had turned him from a high and mighty leader to a rat that everyone wanted to beat up. He would definitely take revenge for this. In fact, he did bring a lot of trouble to Qin Hao in the future. He even almost destroyed the Qin mansion. Don't look at me. I won't accept your pity. Kill me if you want. After Ren Taiju left, Zhang Meng snorted coldly under Qi Daxiong's palm. You think too much. I've never thought of letting you go. Qi Daxiong exerted force with his palm. Crack! He broke Zhang Meng's neck. He could be merciful to his brothers. He would never be merciful to his enemies. Boss Qi, you distinguish between kindness and hatred. Since you can even let a stray dog go, should I do the same? Sure, Hao Qi forced a smile on his face. In other words, if Qi Daxiong could let Ren Taiju go, could he also let him go like a fart? Get lost. Qi Daxiong hurriedly waved his hand. To be honest, he had no time to deal with this kind of person. Because sure Hao Qi was not worthy. Sure Hao Qi felt as if he had been pardoned. He fell to the ground, curled up, and rolled out like a rubber ball. He still remembered Siogua's words. He was even more afraid that Qi Daxiong would send him to hell if he was in a bad mood. Immediately, the furious bear mercenary group opened up a path for Sure Hao Qi. The people who were surrounded also hurriedly left with Sure Hao Qi. Today was really an eye-opener. Qi Daxiong killed Zhang Ming, drove Ren Taizhu away, and scared Shi Haoqi like a coward. No wonder he was the #1 expert in exploding Flame City. Everything he did was for the sake of the two youths. At this moment, everyone looked at Qin Hao with awe. After all, Qin Hao was Qi Daxiong's savior. He was second only to Qi Daxiong and above everyone else. He could do whatever he wanted in exploding Flame City. If he said one, no one dared to say two. If he wanted to steal your wife, not only could you not resist, but you also had to give it to him with a smile. Qin Hao did not bother to look at the fervent gazes around him. In fact, he did not plan to stay in exploding Flame City. His goal was to get back the Red Lotus Fire. That guy who looks like a fat pig. Yes, I'm talking about you. Stop right there. Xiaoguo caught sight of Hai Fei Zi in the crowd. Qin Hao was a generous person. He might not be calculative with Hai Fei Zi. Xiaoguo did not forget how arrogant Hai Fei Zi was just now. Melon Lord, please let me go. I have no strength at all. I'm even tired of killing a chicken. I only want to read and write. I'm a good citizen. Hai Fei Zi wiped his sweat and knelt down. He was so scared that he wanted to cry. You're even tired of killing a chicken? Qin Hao curled his lips. Why didn't you say you were a good citizen when you ordered your men to attack me? Forget it. I'm tired. You should pay for my medical expenses. Qi Daxiong just wanted to take his son home. He did not want to waste time on useless people. Here. Hai Fei Zi trembled and quickly took out banknotes from his arms. Stacks after stacks. The person who took out the banknotes was dazzled. He took out the banknotes more than 10 times. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. Why is there no more? Impossible. After taking out 400,000, Hai Fei Zi found that the money in his arms was gone. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He was afraid that Qin Hao would not be satisfied. After all, Shi Haoqi had a hand over his saber before he could leave. Hai Fei Zi did not have a weapon. All right, I have this. He had an idea. He took off the jade ring on his thumb and respectfully handed it to Qin Hao. I have a big brother called Haidafu. He's a big figure in Heaven's Wall City. If you go to Heaven's Wall City one day, you can give this to my big brother. He'll grant you any request. Qin Hao took it and casually threw it into his space ring. He waved his hand and let Hai Fei Zi leave. He did not take the jade ring seriously. The 400,000 taels of banknotes was enough to satisfy Qin Hao. Not only did he make up for today's expenses, he also made a lot of money. Seeing Qin Hao accept the jade ring, Hai Fei Zi breathed a sigh of relief. He praised Qin Hao again and again. You're so handsome and kind. I'll definitely invite you to tea someday. As if that was not enough, he slapped himself 3 times before he left. Then, he imitated Shi Haoqi and rolled out. Everyone did not know whether to laugh or cry. After sending everyone away, Qi Daxiong brought Qin Hao and Xiaoguo back to the Furious Bear mercenary group's encampment. Along the way, 5 elders escorted them, and 10 captains cleared the way. It was as grand as it could be. However, 1,000 miles away, Qin Manor was in danger. Qin Daming, who was cultivating in Fengli Temple, finally returned. Chapter 65. Rat poison Father Dapeng, what happened? Why are you in such a miserable state? Seeing the two of them, Qin Daming's eyes widened in shock. Qin Yuhai was so skinny that he was just skin and bones. He was bedridden with a head full of white hair and a face full of wrinkles. This was a far cry from the plump and rosy figure of her father in her memory. Qin Dapeng's proud expression had also disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a shivering appearance. It was as if he was afraid of everyone as if they were ghosts. He had completely lost his previous temperament. There was not a single servant left in the west courtyard. Everyone had run away. The courtyard was dilapidated and desolate. When he arrived, Qin Daming thought that he had come to the wrong place. My son is back. Daming's son is finally back. Qin Yuhai was very emotional. Tears flowed from the corner of his eyes and rolled down from the bed. Qin Dapeng screamed in fright and quickly reached out to catch it. But when he reached out, one of his hands became a deformed chicken claw. Who did this? Which bastard hurt you? Qin Daming was furious. He could almost see that his father and brother were harmed by someone. Big brother. With a plop, Qin Dapeng kneeled in front of Qin Daming and recounted everything that had happened. Qin Hao seemed to have been reborn. It was as if he had become a different person. He killed Song Zhong, crippled Zhuang Heba, took first place in the hunting competition, and won the West Mountain Mines for the family. He told Qin Daming everything in detail. Qin Hao became the pride of the family. He even contributed a medicine that could increase a person's strength. Now, he was the treasure of the ancestor, Qin Shilong. Qin Yuhai and Qin Dapeng were in such a state because of Qin Hao's suppression. They owed an astronomical amount of gambling debts and lost the medicine store. Qin Hao made them lose everything they had. Good. You hurt my brother, stole my business, and harmed my father. Qin Hao, I will make you die a horrible death. Qin Daming gritted his teeth and roared. Big brother, lower your voice. Qin Hao is like the sun in the sky in the family. Qin Dapeng was very scared. Look at your useless face. Qin Daming glared at Qin Dapeng. Cowardly as a mouse, what a disgrace. Dapeng's words are not without reason. Dapeng, that little bastard Qin Hao is different from the past. Now that he has the strength of the fourth layer of body tempering realm, even Zhuang Ji is not his opponent. The ancestor is preparing to teach him the clan's secret technique, the minute collapsing fist. It is even possible that he will inherit the position of the young clan head. Qin Yuhai said worriedly. While he was worried, his eyes were also filled with unwillingness. Zhuang Heba? Zhuang Jiba is a pile of dog shit. Qin Hao body tempering stage 4 is nothing. Qin Daming didn't have the slightest fear. He even laughed out loud. However, killing Qin Shilong wasn't a problem at all. It was worth it. That bastard Qin Hao hasn't returned after 3 months. He's probably dead. Let's plan and deal with Qin Lao Si first. Qin Yuhai felt that Qin Hao might have already been stabbed to death by He Sha. After all, it's been 3 months. Let's wait for another 10 days. It's good that he's dead, but if he's still alive, I'll beat him to death when he returns. Body tempering stage 6 is no joke. Killing him is like killing an ant. Before that, I'll go to the east courtyard to get some interest. Qin Daming licked his lips hungrily. When he passed by the east courtyard, he saw Xiao Han. At first, Qin Daming didn't recognize her. He thought that Xiao Han was a VIP in the mansion or the daughter of some big shot. After asking the servants, he found out that Xiao Han was a baby girl who was adopted 15 years ago. She's really pretty. Qin Daming swore that he had never seen such a pretty junior in the sect. She couldn't be compared to Xiao Han at all. Since Qin Hao hasn't returned yet, it's not a bad idea to go to the east courtyard and play with Xiao Han. Of course, Qin Lao Si won't live for long, and Qin Shilong will die soon. Ha ha! 3 wretched laughs resounded in this shabby west courtyard. The Qin clan was about to undergo a great change. Explosive Flame Mountain Range. Qin Hao recovered from his injuries in the Furious Bear mercenary group and once again stepped into the lake with the Red Lotus Fire. He had a bad premonition that something bad would happen to Xiao Han. Therefore, he didn't dare to waste time in the Furious Bear mercenary group. Even though Cheetah Xiong treated him like his own son and gave him almost anything he wanted, he still had to leave. This time, he didn't bring Tsaogwa with him. Cheetah Xiong and Tsaogwa had just met and doted on each other a lot. Of course, Qin Hao was well prepared this time. He wouldn't be able to get the Red Lotus Fire like last time. Besides the Ice Elemental Bead and Sure Haoqi's broadsword, he also took a lot of rare herbs and some small things from Cheetah Xiong's storage. He was about to break through to the Gathering Yuan state. Once he leveled up, his body would produce Origin Qi, and he would be able to concoct pills like in his previous life. Therefore, he had to have enough herbs with him. Xiao Han, 4th uncle, please be safe. Chapter 66. Chapter 66, a succession of surprises in order to retrieve the Red Lotus Fire. Qin Hao suffered greatly. Especially at the auction, he had almost lost his life under Zhang Meng's fist. Fortunately, in the nick of time, the Great Void Cauldron released a golden bell canopy to block Zhang Meng, helping Qin Hao avoid disaster. Regarding this, Qin Hao was very distressed. The Great Void Cauldron's spatial ring cracked open. Although Qin Hao had a way to repair it, it was not easy to do with his current ability. I wonder if the Great Void Cauldron released the Golden Bell Shield by chance, or if it was inevitable. Qin Hao still couldn't figure it out. Was that a skill of the Great Void Cauldron? Was it a coincidence? Or did it save Qin Hao's life every time he was in danger? It seemed that he would have to wait until he repaired the Great Void Cauldron and formed a connection with it before he could obtain proof. Qin Hao nodded. He could not help but feel a little excited. If he could freely control the Great Void Cauldron and release the Golden Bell Shield, it would undoubtedly be another life-saving trump card. 2 days later, Qin Hao returned to the Red Lotus Lake. Facing the hot water of the lake, he took out the ice elemental bead, but he didn't put it into his mouth as Master Fong had instructed. He wondered if the ice elemental bead had been in Master Fong's mouth and if his rotten teeth had bad breath. Qin Hao would never take something that had been taken by someone else. Qin Hao held the ice elemental bead firmly in his palm. Immediately, a wave of coldness assaulted him, causing him to shiver. His body was quickly enveloped by the cold air, and even his eyebrows started to freeze. In an instant, the oncoming heat wave was immediately blocked by the cold air. Qin Hao took out Shi Haoqi's broadsword and slashed at the fire elemental herbs on the shore. Large leaves flew all over the sky. The leaves were as wide as a palm and as long as a chopstick. Qin Hao kicked the leaf towards the surface of the lake. His body leaped up like a dragonfly, skimming the surface of the water. He stepped on the leaf and moved forward quickly. Even if the ice elemental bead could withstand the heat of the Red Lotus Lake, Qin Hao did not dare to enter the water. Therefore, he cut off the leaves of the fire attribute herbs and walked on the surface of the lake. It had to be said that Qin Hao's movement technique was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already rushed to the center of the lake and stepped on the huge black rock. The ice elemental bead in his hand also showed signs of melting. It was a race against time. Before the ice elemental bead melted, he had to split open the boulder. Break! Qin Hao wielded his saber with one hand and slashed at the boulder beneath his feet. Clang! There was a grating sound. Qin Hao's palm was numb from the shock. The broadsword drew sparks on the boulder, and faintly, a few cracks appeared on the broadsword. The boulder was actually so hard, even sharp weapons couldn't move an inch. Break for me! Qin Hao couldn't care less. In any case, the saber wasn't his, so he wouldn't feel bad even if it broke. He immediately unleashed the power of the inextinguishable cycle of samsara, increasing the power of the 8 layers as he slashed down with his saber. Crash! After this slash, the broadsword in his hand was shattered into pieces. What? Qin Hao was shocked on the spot. Looking at the hilt in his hand, Shi Haoqi's saber was shattered. However, the result of this attack was only a small piece of rock that was sent flying from the boulder. Damn it! Sweat kept flowing down Qin Hao's face. It wasn't because he was anxious, but because the ice elemental bead in his hand had melted to the size of a grain of rice. If he couldn't cut open the boulder, once the ice elemental bead melted, Qin Hao would be roasted into a charred corpse. Just like 600 years ago, he would be burned by the Red Lotus fire again. I won't lose to you twice. Break for me. Qin Hao couldn't help but be furious. He threw away the hilt, and with a flash of red light in his hand, he took out the purple meteorite sword from his interspatial ring. The sword was as sharp as a holy weapon, and he stabbed it into the bottom of his feet. Poochie! The purple meteorite sword broke into the boulder, and the hilt disappeared. Even Qin Hao's hand was stabbed into the black boulder. But the situation wasn't good. The moment the purple meteorite sword collided with the black boulder, countless red crystals shattered from the purple meteorite sword, like broken ice crystals dancing in the air. Qin Hao knew that this was the outer layer of the purple meteorite sword. Now, even the outer layer of the sword was broken. Only the heart of the sword was left. The heart of the sword was the sunset stone. Break for me! Qin Hao clenched his teeth, and large beads of sweat flowed down his face. The ice elemental bead had melted completely. The fiery aura of death once again enveloped his body. This feeling was exactly the same as 600 years ago. But today, he couldn't repeat the same mistake. I'm counting on you, purple meteorite sword. Break for me. Boom, 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 boom. As Qin Hao pulled with all his strength, the purple meteorite sword and the boulder produced a strong friction and a sharp, ear-piercing sound. The boulder was finally cut open. 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. The crack was getting bigger and bigger. Gradually, a pillar of fire erupted from the inside of the boulder. The fire was as red as blood. It was the red lotus fire. It was a small flame that looked like it was dripping with blood. At this moment, Qin Hao's entire body was filled with fiery aura, and his face was contorted in pain. The purple meteorite sword in his hand seemed to be burning and turned into a flaming sword. But no matter what, the black boulder was finally cut open. Qin Hao saw the small flame. It was the one that caused Qin Hao's death. It was the one that could even incinerate an emperor-level powerhouse. Now it belonged to Qin Hao. As soon as the red lotus fire appeared, Qin Hao's spatial ring seemed to come alive and immediately sucked the flame into the great void cauldron. At this moment, the flame disappeared, and the fiery aura that enveloped Qin Hao's body disappeared without a trace. It was as if the entire world had stopped. The lake outside dried up in an instant, revealing a wide crack at the bottom of the lake. Even the fire attribute herbs on the shore, which had strong vitality, were rapidly withering. This area had completely turned into a barren land of death. Ha! Ha! After a long time, Qin Hao stood on the boulder and laughed like a madman. This trip was not just to collect the red lotus fire. After the great void cauldron swallowed the flame, the spatial ring was nourished by the fiery aura, and the crack on it disappeared. Qin Hao's cultivation level had also skipped body tempering stage 9 and directly rose to the elemental gathering stage. That was not all. Even the purple meteorite sword in his hand had been reborn, turning into a 3-inch long, blood-red flexible sword. Qin Hao could feel that the sword's power was more than 10 times stronger than before. After being refined by the red lotus fire, the purple meteorite sword had evolved. Now, it was a lethal weapon. It was a weapon that was superior to other weapons, a weapon that made people tremble in fear, even if it was only a low-grade weapon. But the red lotus fire had brought a huge surprise. It had repaired the broken Great Void Cauldron. It had helped Qin Hao break through to the elemental gathering stage. It had forged a lethal weapon for Qin Hao. I finally have an alchemist. My alchemy skills are back. Qin Hao was so excited that he was about to go crazy. After the Great Void Cauldron swallowed the red lotus fire, it sent a wisp of fiery aura into Qin Hao's body. It was this weak, fiery aura that allowed Qin Hao to break through to the elemental gathering stage in an instant. At this moment, there was a warm energy flowing in his body. Qin Hao's body was also enveloped by a light green brilliance. This was the symbol of the elemental gathering stage. Qin Hao's mind moved, and a ball of fire appeared in his palm. He could not help but let out a long howl. You're about to die, and you're still shouting. You're really in the mood. Stunned, a cold voice sounded from not far away. Chapter 67. Chapter 67, I only need one sword to kill you. Hee. Of course I'm going to moan. I'll definitely moan when I feel good. Since you haven't moaned before, it means that you haven't tasted the feeling of pleasure. So you're a Yangqi guy? Qin Hao was not flustered by the appearance of a powerful enemy. He would not run away as soon as he saw the Black Fiend like before. This time, he was very calm, and the corners of his mouth even curled up into a contemptuous smile. In fact, along the way to the Red Lotus Lake, Qin Hao knew that someone was following him. He also guessed who it was. The reason why Qin Hao didn't expose him was because this was the moment that he had been waiting for. The moment he collected the Red Lotus Fire, kill the Black Fiend to celebrate. Old and new grudges would be settled together. Idiot! Black Fiend was so angry that he laughed. The target of this mission was as stupid as an idiot. However, It was because of this big idiot that the Black Fiend had wasted 3 whole months. He had suffered a lot and was almost beaten to death. It could be said that Qin Hao put the Black Fiend in a terrible fix. Previously, after Zhou Shuntong blocked He Sha, he had also returned to the explosive Flame City. Not long after, he sensed Qin Hao's aura in the city. Unfortunately, Qin Hao had gone to the black market auction. There were many experts at the auction, and Qi Daxiong was there as well. He Sha did not dare to enter rashly and could only wait outside bitterly. In the end, what he saw was the entire Raging Bear mercenary group carrying Qin Hao out as if he was the emperor. That scene simply shocked He Sha's eyes out. Then, with tears in his eyes, he watched others carry Qin Hao into Qi Daxiong's mansion. After Qin Hao entered Qi Daxiong's house, He Sha had no chance to make a move. Helplessly and pitifully, he waited outside for a few days. Who would have thought that this reckless thing would come out again? Instead of hiding in Qi Daxiong's nest, he had come to this damned place all by himself. Thank you, Angel Sister, for sending him to me again. He was dead for sure today. Look at your stupid face. You must be fantasizing about killing me. Fine, I'll kill you today to celebrate. Qin Hao stretched out a finger and waved it in front of his nose. Killing you only requires 1 strike. Ha ha ha. After He Sha heard this, he held his stomach and laughed. You only need 1 sword to kill me? Arrogant. In He Sha's opinion, apart from being stupid, Qin Hao is also an egomaniac. Shameless boasting. I don't know what damn thing you found inside the rock, but it actually allowed you to advance to the first layer of element gathering tier. Unfortunately, you'll still have to die under my hands. I'm the 3rd layer of element gathering tier, so why don't you obediently hand over your spatial ring? The whole process of Qin Hao taking out the Red Lotus Fire, Black Fiend saw it all. But he wasn't worried at all. Even if Qin Hao somehow managed to break through to element gathering tier, he was still only a novice in the 1st layer of element gathering tier. He probably wouldn't even be able to control his origin chi. 1 palm was enough to kill Qin Hao. Moreover, Qin Hao's spatial ring was too tempting. Black Fiend was determined to win. I'm stupid. I'm arrogant. I'm shameless boasting. You want to snatch my treasure? Come and take it if you have the ability. Today, let's see who's shameless boasting. After saying this, Qin Hao's aura suddenly rose. His body was enveloped by a green light, and the upgraded purple meteorite sword was pointed diagonally at the ground, ready to attack. Pretentious, take this. Invincible Ghost Shadow Hand. Black Fiend's body flew up like a large bird, heading straight for Qin Hao's position, leaving behind a long afterimage in the air. His speed was extremely fast. His hands moved rapidly in front of his chest, and in one breath he struck out 6 palms. This was Black Fiend's famous ultimate skill, a dark-level, low-level skill, Invincible Ghost Shadow Hand. However, he only practiced it to the 6th layer. Those 6 ghost-like black handprints all shot towards Qin Hao, and the distance between them was getting closer and closer. The spatial ring was almost in his hands. 10 meters, 8 meters, 6 meters, close, even closer, 3 meters. Qin Hao stood stiffly, not making a move, and even closed his eyes. When Black Fiend saw this, he was overjoyed. This kid still had some self-awareness, and knew that it was useless to resist. Unfortunately, Black Fiend was wrong. Qin Hao was not waiting for death. Just when the Ghost Shadow Hand was only 1 meter away from Qin Hao's closed eyes suddenly opened, and the blood sword pointed diagonally at the ground slashed out like lightning. 1 slash. A gust of wind suddenly rose. 1 slash. The remnant clouds surged. 1 slash. The 6 Ghost Shadow handprints were split open. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of explosions, the blood-colored cold light did not decrease in power and directly spread through Black Fiend's neck. Black Fiend, who was running, also stopped in front of Qin Hao. His eyes were wide open. His mouth opened and closed with great effort, and a gurgling sound came from his throat. He tried his best to ask, "How did you do it?" "I won't tell you, because you don't deserve it." Qin Hao held the blood sword in his hand and walked past Black Fiend with a cold face. Black Fiend's body also fell to the ground, and hot blood gradually dyed the ground red from under his body. This scene was extremely coquettish. If someone turned his body over now, they would find that there was a small sword slit on Black Fiend's neck. That sword slit almost cut off Black Fiend's entire neck. Qin Hao actually slit his throat with one slash. This slash was the sword drawing technique. The sword drawing technique used by a martial artist in the element gathering realm. Phew! Qin Hao let out a long breath. Using graceful sword to fight against an enemy in the third layer of element gathering realm consumed a lot of energy. Stupid? Arrogant? Boastful? Oof. Now, the boastful person had already paid the price for his actions. Black Fiend wanted to take Qin Hao's life several times, and even wanted to snatch the divine weapon. He deserved to die during the battle just now. The reason why Qin Hao chose to attack when the Ghost Shadow Hand was the last meter away from him was to test his limits. The facts prove that. He did it. With the strength of the first layer of element gathering realm, coupled with the sword chi activated by the art of indestructible samsara, he valiantly tore apart an attack 2 levels higher than his. Unfortunately, the Heaven Grade Sword technique, Graceful Sword, could only be used once the moment the sword was drawn. This was also Qin Hao's limit, because Black Fiend was in the third layer of element gathering realm after all. I have to hurry and cultivate the art of indestructible samsara. Qin Hao nodded. If he cultivated the art of indestructible samsara to the 9th layer of perfection, then cultivated the 2nd stage, he had the confidence to activate 2 or even 3 flashes of sword chi when he used the sword drawing technique. At that time, he would kill more than one in the 3rd layer of element gathering realm. Of course, Qin Hao did not have the confidence to fight against one in the 4th layer of element gathering realm. He could not be bothered to look at Black Fiend's corpse. This dog was so poor that he did not even pay for the mission. Who knew where Black Fiend had hidden the money of 8 zhuangji? Qin Hao chose to leave. Before leaving, he glanced at the dried-up lake and the already withered fire attribute herbs on the shore. Qin Hao shook his head regretfully. What a waste of such a large pile of medicinal herbs. Many rare plants had already withered and lost their effectiveness. However, Qin Hao still found a few plants. Even if these plants withered, it would not affect their effectiveness, because their medicinal power was in their roots. Plucking their roots and putting them into a spatial ring, Qin Hao looked up at the sky. It was time to return to the clan. Little Han should be waiting anxiously. He wondered if that silly girl's sword technique had improved. While he was stunned, 2 figures streaked across the sky and happened to be seen by Qin Hao. Their auras were extremely shocking as they headed straight for the lake. Qin Hao's body shook, and he became extremely vigilant. These 2 auras were extremely powerful. The weaker one was comparable to Black Fiend. The other was an expert in the 5th layer of element gathering realm. It was definitely not someone Qin Hao could withstand at the moment. Could it be that they are here to look for me? When Qin Hao took the red lotus fire, the flames soared into the sky, causing a temporary anomaly. If he was discovered by an expert, he would definitely come over to take a look. Qin Hao had to hide quickly. Looking around, he found a large rock that had been split open. He immediately dodged. Before leaving, he did not forget to pull up Black Fiend's corpse and drag it behind the large rock. Chapter 68. A Beauty from the Heavens Xiao. Xiao. 2 figures, one chasing the other, dashed over from the inner area of explosive flame mountain range. Their movement techniques were extremely fast. The first to arrive was a middle-aged man with messy hair. His strength was on par with Black Fiend, 3rd tier of element gathering tier. The middle-aged man was as thin as a stick. One look, and one could tell that he was not a good person. His body had been hollowed out by wine and women. The second to arrive was 5th tier of element gathering tier. Moreover, she was a beauty. A beauty. So beautiful that Qin Hao, who was hiding behind the rock, was stunned. She was about 17 or 18 years old, not much older than Qin Hao. Her skin was smooth, her figure was tall, and her curves were graceful. Especially when she fell, her long legs were rarely seen in the world. Her appearance was exquisite, and her temperament was refined. She was even more like a fairy descending from the heavens. Even in his previous life, Qin Hao had never seen such a woman. However, when she looked at the middle-aged man, her face was filled with anger. "Xia Liu, let's see where you can run to." The girl drew her sword. The moment she attacked, it was extraordinary. The sword in her hand was also extraordinary. Qin Hao could tell at a glance that in terms of power, it was not inferior to the evolved purple meteorite sword in his hand. It could be seen that the girl's identity was definitely not ordinary. Run? Ha! I've never thought of running away. This depression is where you'll be buried. The wretched middle-aged man called Xia Jiuliu sneered angrily. With his wretched appearance, it was obvious that he had been chased by the girl for a long time. He was almost forced into a desperate situation. However, he was wrong about one thing. This depression was originally a large lake. Because the water had dried up, it had become a large pit. Qin Hao could conclude that these two people did not know that he had obtained the Red Lotus fire. He must have stumbled into this place for some other reason. The place where I will be buried? Shameless boasting. The girl's aura began to rise as she prepared to attack. She was called Chen Wanqin, the daughter of the Fengli Temple's sect master. She was a phoenix that people looked up to since she was young. This time, she came down the mountain to kill a heinous rapist. The flower thief was the wretched middle-aged man, Xia Jiuliu, who had harmed many girls. Especially half a year ago, he actually extended his evil hand to the female disciples of Fengli Temple. A female disciple accidentally fell into his trap and was humiliated to death by him. Therefore, Chen Wanqin took the initiative to ask for permission to kill this thief. The sovereign only had this one precious daughter, so for the sake of safety, he sent a very experienced Elder Dan to accompany Chen Wanqin down the mountain. Elder Dan was no stranger to Qin Hao. It was the old man who had been tending to the fire back then. Even a medicinal pot had exploded. He had almost killed the Black Fiend with a single palm strike. He even wanted to take Qin Hao as his disciple. As the daughter of the sect master, Chen Wanqin was proud and arrogant. She did not allow Elder Dan to interfere and wanted to kill Xia Jiuliu alone to complete the mission. In this regard, Elder Dan was quite relieved. Chen Wanqin was in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Killing Xia Jiuliu, a martial artist in the 3rd layer of element gathering tier, should not be a difficult task. Unfortunately, Chen Wanqin still underestimated Xia Jiuliu. Xia Jiuliu was extremely cunning and did not face Chen Wanqin head-on at all. The moment he saw her, he would hide everywhere. Chen Wanqin chased him for 2 months, causing him to run all over the mountain. She chased him from the periphery to the inner area, and then from the inner area. Xia Jiuliu was in an extremely sorry state. He had never been so miserable before. In his heart, he also hated Chen Wanqin to the core. But he could not beat her. It was really sad. However, in these 2 months of chasing, Xia Jiuliu discovered that Chen Wanqin's aura was very unstable. It was normal at times and chaotic at other times. It seemed like she was sick or had a problem with her cultivation. That was why he could survive until now. Otherwise, he would have been killed by Chen Wanqin long ago. According to the time, today was the day Chen Wanqin's aura became unstable. Xia Jiuliu had chosen this depression to lure Chen Wanqin into taking the bait. The location of this depression was very good, and the scenery was unique. No one would care even if he shouted until his throat was broken. After all, she had chased him for so long. The other party was also a beauty. Chen Wanqin's entire body was filled with temptation, be it strength, appearance, identity, or status. All of them stimulated Xia Jiuliu's nerves. Just the thought of playing with the daughter of the Fengli Temple's sect master was enough to satisfy him. Thinking of this, Xia Jiuliu licked his lips and shamelessly got hard. TSK. So F*** King disgusting. Qin Hao spat on the ground. He hated such lecherous people the most in his life, especially dirty and smelly old lechers. Shameless. Chen Wanqin also sensed Xia Juliu's reaction. She did not know what kind of unsightly scene the other party was imagining in his mind. She immediately slashed out with her sword. A 2-meter-long green sword light slashed towards Xia Juliu. The attack of a 5th-tier essence-gathering realm cultivator was no small matter, especially when Chen Wanqin was holding an extraordinary weapon. Xia Juliu immediately reflected on himself and broke out in cold sweat. However, he could not retreat. Gritting his teeth, he raised his broken axe and faced the attack. At the moment of contact, the broken axe was easily shattered by the sword light. Moreover, it even hit Xia Juliu's body, and one of his arms flew into the air. Ah, my arm, my mighty and extraordinary divine axe. Xia Juliu howled and rolled on the ground. He did not expect Chen Wanqin's sword technique to be so sharp. Not only did it shatter his mid-tier refined divine axe, but it also cut off his arm. At this moment, Xia Juliu's face was filled with fear. He was so scared that he kept retreating like a dog. However, Qin Hao noticed that Xia Juliu's other hand was not obedient. That hand was tightly clenched together, as if it was holding something. The first sword will cripple you. The second sword will take your dog life. Chen Wanqin walked over angrily. After chasing him for 2 months, she could finally kill this thief. She did not know where Xia Juliu's courage came from, but he actually stopped running this time. As she walked, Chen Wanqin's footsteps suddenly swayed. Her rosy face turned pale, and cold sweat even flowed down her face. At the crucial moment, the chronic illness in her body began to act up again. This time, her aura immediately became chaotic. She had no choice but to suppress the chaotic aura in her body. You shrewish little girl, you broke my divine axe and broke my arm. This old man, and you cannot live under the same sky. Today, I will play with you until you scream miserably again and again. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. I will make you experience all of my 108 positions. Xia Juliu naturally saw the change in Chen Wanqin. Immediately, joy appeared on his face, and his fear disappeared. Filthy thief, even if I can only use half of my strength, I can still kill you. Watch my sword. Chen Wanqin immediately launched a second sword attack, determined to kill Xia Juliu as soon as possible. This time, she could only use half of her strength. She needed to use the other half of her cultivation to suppress the chaotic aura in her body. Swoosh! She stabbed her sword straight out. Her target was Xia Juliu's heart. However, when she was 3 meters away from him, she was about to kill Xia Juliu. Suddenly, Xia Juliu jumped up crazily, raised his hand, and scattered a ball of white phosphorus powder on Chen Wanqin's face. Chen Wanqin was caught off guard. She was spilled all over her head and face, and her eyes were blinded. Xia Juliu also grabbed the sword that she had stabbed out. However, Xia Juliu had underestimated the power of the sword. The sword directly pierced through his palm, causing him to roll on the ground again in pain. Compared to Xia Juliu's current miserable state, Chen Wanqin was very panicked. Her eyes were blinded by the white phosphorus powder, and she could not see anything. The girl couldn't help but let out a scream. Moreover, the chaotic aura in her body became even more serious. She no longer had the strength to subdue the thief in front of her. Chapter 69. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Haha, you've finally fallen in my hands. I've been waiting for a long time. Xia Juliu crawled up, his sword still in his palm. His other arm was missing. He looked very miserable. 2 months. You mother-of-asterisk king chased after me for 2 whole months, causing this old man to be on tenterhooks and unable to eat or sleep in peace. You even cut off my arm and shattered my mighty axe. You didn't even let go of my other hand and even stabbed me with your sword. Xia Juliu's face was filled with anger and malevolence. His melancholic hands had conquered thousands of little beauties. Now, he only had 1 hand left, and there was even a hole in his palm. He could no longer test the full feeling of a woman's breasts. At this moment, she really hated Chen Wanqin to her bones, her stomach, her lungs, and her teeth. If he didn't torture her properly, he would be letting down old man's hand. He glanced at the depression. This place was F**king amazing. It was a very spacious pit, enough for him to do 108 positions. No one would care, even if he screamed until his throat was hoarse. Moreover, there was not a single person. He didn't know who had dug such a beautiful pit. He was grateful to his ancestors. Every second of the night was worth 1,000 gold. Xia Zhuliu couldn't wait any longer and pounced on Chen Wanqin with a mouth full of saliva. He couldn't wait to taste the wonderful taste. As the pride of Fengli Temple, I advanced to the first tier of body tempering realm at the age of 5, reached the 9th tier of body tempering realm at the age of 10, and broke through to the essence gathering realm at the age of 12. Now, I'm already at the 5th tier of essence gathering realm, but unfortunately, I fell into the hands of a pervert. The heavens are really blind. Chen Wanqin lamented. In front of her was a pitch-black world, without a trace of light. The chaotic aura in her body became more and more serious. She shouldn't have been like this. She originally had a fire dragon jade pendant that could fight against the chaotic aura. Unfortunately, she had lost that fire dragon jade a few months ago. Now, the beautiful phoenix of a generation was about to fall into Xia Zhuliu's hands. It wasn't hard to imagine that she was destined to suffer a fate worse than death. However, even if she died, she wouldn't let the pervert have his way. Chen Wanqin thought of biting her tongue to commit suicide. But in the next second, she found that she didn't even have the strength to bite her tongue to commit suicide. Her body was stiff, and she couldn't control it all. He could only be a fish on the chopping board and let others do whatever they wanted to him. Ha ha ha, little beauty, I'm here. Xia Zhuliu pounced in front of Chen Wanqin like a wolf, bringing with him a foul smell. He was overjoyed and excited. He let go of all his guard and pounced. Not only could he take revenge, but he could also do whatever he wanted to Chen Wanqin. He even added an aphrodisiac into the white phosphorus powder just now. The effect was really great. However, just as his dirty hand were about to touch the holy goddess, a figure rushed over like a gust of wind. It was Qin Hao behind the stone. He hated such shameless people the most. Besides, a woman like Chen Wanqin should not be desecrated by Xia Zhuliu. Qin Hao attacked without holding back. Using the water wind steps, he appeared beside Chen Wanqin in a flash. He was so fast that he brought with him a gust of wind. Chen Wanqin couldn't control her body and was about to be blown to the ground. Qin Hao reacted quickly and grabbed Chen Wanqin's waist. At the same time, he stabbed forward with his purple meteorite sword. Xia Zhuliu didn't notice that someone was hiding here. He was so excited that he pounced on Qin Hao's sword. It was a very heroic scene. Splat! The sword pierced through Xia Zhuliu's entire body. After killing the black demon, the purple meteorite sword also killed a 3rd-tier essence gathering realm cultivator. You? Damn it. Xia Zhuliu widened his eyes and fell to the ground, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Before he could even touch a strand of Chen Wanqin's hair, he was stabbed to death by a brat who suddenly appeared. He had been chased for more than 2 months. Because of this, he had lost an arm. He had lost his mighty axe. He had gambled with his life, but he had made a wedding dress for someone else. Xia Zhuliu had even used an aphrodisiac on Chen Wanqin, creating a heaven-sent opportunity for Qin Hao. At the moment of his death, he felt as if 10,000 alpacas were galloping through his mind. Who are you? Are you the one who saved me? Although Chen Wanqin couldn't see the scene in front of her, she heard the sound of someone falling to the ground. Then, the smelly wind disappeared, and a faint fragrance floated in front of her. She knew that someone had saved her. This made her feel a little unreal, and she forgot that Qin Hao was still hugging her waist. Qin Hao responded. Being in close contact with a beauty, that peerless beauty could make all living things go crazy. For a moment, Qin Hao was stunned. I'm sorry. Chen Wanqin finally reacted and realized that a stranger was hugging her waist. She quickly pulled away. Now that she had calmed down, she could control her body a little. In the past, the other disciples in the sect did not even have the chance to get close to her. Now, she was in someone's arms. In the past, she would have already attacked. However, Qin Hao had saved her life after all. Thank you for saving me. Can you tell me your name? Chen Wanqin thought that she had to repay this person in the future. Judging from Qin Hao's this was a man. She couldn't help but blush. This was the first time she was hugged by a man. Qin Hao did not answer and continued to look at the girl in front of him. He thought to himself that perhaps only Xiao Han from his family could compare with this woman in terms of appearance. Why aren't you saying anything? What's your name? Chen Wanqin thought that Qin Hao had left and panicked. She reached out and grabbed Qin Hao's clothes. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Her eyes were blinded and she could not see anything. I asked you a few times, but you didn't say anything. Are you mute? Chen Wanqin whispered. When Qin Hao heard this, his brows furrowed slightly. Then he made a sound of acknowledgement. In his opinion, this girl's background was not simple. Qin Hao did not want to be entangled with her. He just wanted to return to his family as soon as possible. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were... Chen Wanqin looked apologetic. She knew that she had hurt Qin Hao's self-esteem. This person was really pitiful. It's okay, I'm used to it. Qin Hao pulled Chen Wanqin's hand and wrote a few words on her palm. Then, he reached out to touch her closed eyes. There was a layer of white powder on her eyes. This is white phosphorus powder. It can't be washed with water. You have to rub it with a special fragrance oil. Chen Wanqin smiled, not dejected. Fortunately, that evil thief Xia Juliu had already been executed. This is not simple white phosphorus powder. There's an aphrodisiac in it. Qin Hao wrote a few more words on Chen Wanqin's hand to remind her. My physique is special. A mere aphrodisiac can't do anything to me. Chen Wanqin was speaking the truth. She was born with a rare ice spirit physique and cultivated the divine ice technique passed down in her family. A mere aphrodisiac could not do anything to her. At the same time, she had a better impression of Qin Hao. Not only did this person not take advantage of her, he even kindly reminded her. Actually, this was also Chen Wanqin testing Qin Hao. If Qin Hao dared to touch her, she was ready to explode her dantian. She planned to destroy both jade and common stone. But there's a big problem with your body. At this moment, Qin Hao wrote a few more words on her palm. Chapter 70. I'll carry you down the mountain. In fact, Chen Wanqin had an ice spirit body that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. She had also cultivated the divine ice arts since she was young. Many people envied her. However, she suffered a backlash from the cold energy. Every time it flared up, the cold energy in her body would run amok. Her limbs would become stiff, and her organs would feel like they were frozen. Chen Wanqin suffered a lot. As time passed, the backlash would become more and more serious. In the end, she would turn into a lifeless ice sculpture. Even in her current situation, it was enough to threaten her life. For this reason, she had searched for all kinds of famous doctors, but none of them could cure her. Even the chief alchemist of Fengli Temple, that awesome profound core elder, was helpless. Originally, she had a priceless fire dragon jade. In times of danger, she could borrow the power of the fire dragon jade to temporarily suppress the cold energy in her body. Unfortunately, she had lost the fire dragon jade several months ago. If not for Qin Hao saving her today, she would have almost fallen into Xia Jiuliu's hands. Your chaotic energy is very serious. If you don't suppress it, it will be very dangerous. If Miss is willing, I can try to help you subdue it. Seeing that Chen Wanqin did not speak, Qin Hao wrote a few more words on her palm. With Qin Hao's and Denda's eyesight, they could tell that Chen Wanqin had a rare ice spirit body. They were very surprised. At the same time, they realized that she had cultivated an extraordinary ice arts. That was the problem. Ice spirit bodies were very weak at birth. Cultivation techniques had to be gentle and gradual. Chen Wanqin's elders were mortals and did not set a good cultivation method for her. She was too eager to advance, which caused the cold energy in her body to worsen. However, it was not easy to get rid of the cold energy. Not to mention getting rid of it. Even suppressing it was very difficult. The ice spirit body was 1 in a million. It was not inferior to Tsio's Herculean bull demon body. If one wanted to suppress the cold energy of the ice spirit body, one had to have a unique fire essence, and an extremely domineering one at that. In the past, Qinhao would not have been so confident. However, it was different now. He had just obtained a red lotus fire. However, during the process of suppression, the two of them couldn't avoid skin contact. That was why Qinhao asked her, if Miss is willing. This, Chen Wanqin was stunned on the spot. She was very clear about how powerful her ice chi was. Even Elder Dan had no way to subdue it. He had to rely on that mysterious fiery dragon jade. However, Qinhao said that he could help her suppress her chaotic energy. How could she not be shocked? Since you have no objections, let's begin. While Chen Wanqin was in a daze, Qinhao thought that she had agreed. He stretched out his large hand and covered her abdomen. Chen Wanqin's body suddenly trembled. She was taken advantage of by the man in front of her again. However, since she had already allowed him to hug her, it didn't matter if he touched her. More importantly, when Qinhao's hand touched hers, a warm flow of air spread from Chen Wanqin's abdomen. Although this warm flow was very gentle, the chaotic ice chi in her body immediately calmed down as if it had seen a ghost. This caused Chen Wanqin to be very shocked. This was also the reason why she did not struggle. This man actually did it. However, Qinhao was not relaxed. He carefully controlled his primordial chi and transferred the red lotus fire into Chen Wanqin's body. This wisp of fire chi was left for Qinhao by the great void cauldron. As he had just broken through, Qinhao's primordial chi was very little. Therefore, it was very strenuous. In a short moment, he was already sweating profusely. Bracing himself, Qinhao's palms slowly moved upwards, from Chen Wanqin's abdomen to her chest. Chen Wanqin pursed her lips and let out a slight tremble. If this scene was seen by the disciples of Fengli Temple, they would definitely be so shocked that their eyes would fall to the ground. They might even go crazy. Qinhao's hand was actually touching eldest senior sister's chest. No one would believe it, even if they were beaten to death. If this was seen by the inner disciples of Fengli Temple, no, even the core disciples would not hesitate to challenge Qinhao to a fight to the death. Look at where you put your hand, you rude guy. I want to fight you. Chen Wanqin's face was incomparably red. She was so embarrassed that she did not dare to raise her head. However, she could also see that Qinhao was a gentleman and did not take advantage of her. A doctor's heart was like that of a parent. In the eyes of a doctor, men and women were the same. Chen Wanqin told herself this. All right, I have already suppressed the ice chi back into your dantian. It will not act up again for 2 months. Qinhao wiped the sweat off his head and pulled Chen Wanqin's hand to right. Chen Wanqin felt as if she was in a dream. She hurriedly circulated her cultivation technique and found that it was exactly as Qinhao said. This man was really too miraculous. With my current ability, this is all I can do. When I return to the city, I will write down a list of medicinal herbs. After Miss has bought all the herbs, give me some time. When I become stronger, I should be able to completely eradicate it. Qinhao continued to write. What did you say? Chen Wanqin exclaimed in shock. She seemed to have lost her composure. Qinhao being able to suppress the ice chi was already very surprising to her. Moreover, it would not act up for 2 months. In the past, it was absolutely impossible for such a thing to happen. After all, even Elder Dan could not do it. However, Qinhao said that he could eradicate it for her. The ice chi had accumulated for more than 10 years. It was simply incurable. Chen Wanqin already had the resolve to die. Now that she could be saved, it was really too shocking. Thank you. Chen Wanqin calmed her excited mood. She did not think that Qinhao could really cure her ice chi. Through the treatment just now, she realized that Qinhao was only a newly advanced gathering yuan state. It was already incredible that he could suppress the ice chi. However, it was definitely impossible to completely cure this illness. Even so, Chen Wanqin was still very grateful to Qin Hao. To be honest, she really wanted to open her eyes and see what he looked like. Roar! At this moment, a few beast roars could be heard. The sun had set, and some ferocious beasts that appeared at night began to move. This area was very dangerous, and there were even ferocious beasts. I'll send you down the mountain, Qin Hao wrote in Chen Wanqin's hand. The girl's eyes were blinded, and she couldn't see anything. He couldn't leave her alone in the wilderness. Then, Qin Hao flipped over Xia Zhuliu's body, removed the sword from his palm, and returned it to Chen Wanqin. Of course, he did not forget to take other valuable things. He even threw the broken axe on the ground into his spatial ring. This broken axe was a medium-grade sharp weapon. Even though it was broken, its material was still very useful. After doing all this, Qin Hao held Chen Wanqin's hand and walked back to Exploding Flame City step by step. You're a good person. Chen Wanqin looked at Qin Hao in a new light again. This man was very gentle and considerate. Not only did he not take advantage of her, but he also returned the sword to her. She could not help but like Qin Hao even more. She also wanted to return to the city quickly to clean the white powder in her eyes and see what Qin Hao looked like. Then, she would find Elder Dan and repay him. Too slow, I'll carry you. Chen Wanqin could not see the road and walked very slowly. At this speed, they would not be able to return to the city in a month. Oh, okay. Chen Wanqin struggled for a while before nodding in agreement. Qin Hao smiled, squatted down slightly, and carried Chen Wanqin on his back. Then he used the waterwind steps and rushed toward Exploding Flame City as fast as a gust of wind. This scene would make many Fengli Temple disciples green with envy. Chapter 71. Chapter 71, Why Are You Running? 3 days later, the two of them walked out of the Exploding Flame Mountain range and were about 5 to 6 miles away from the Exploding Flame City. During this period, Qin Hao took good care of Chen Wanqin, especially when they spent the night in the cave. The roars of the beasts outside rose and fell one after another. Because Chen Wanqin was temporarily blind, she felt a little scared. Qin Hao wrote on her palm, I'm here, don't be afraid. This made Chen Wanqin feel a lot more at ease, and she was even more curious. She was eager to see what Qin Hao looked like. I wonder if he's handsome or not. Anyway, she felt that Qin Hao was not an old man, because Qin Hao's hands were very tender. Judging from this, he should be about the same age as himself. Will someone come to pick you up when you return to the city? When they were close to Exploding Flame City, Qin Hao stopped and wrote on Chen Wanqin's palm. Well, you don't have to worry. No one dares to bully me. Chen Wanqin smiled faintly. Her smile was like a spring breeze, very charming. Elder Dan Xian was in the city. Immediately, she crushed a jade slip on her body, and after a moment, Elder Dan was able to find the location of Qin Hao based on Chen Wanqin's aura. That's great. Qin Hao was relieved. After sending her to the city, he would leave. While they were talking, a monstrous aura suddenly soared up from the Exploding Flame City and rushed towards Qin Hao. This aura was too shocking. Qin Hao shuddered violently. This familiar feeling, could it be, oh no? It was the old fart that he had met before. Without saying a word, Qin Hao carried Chen Wanqin on his shoulder and ran. He planned to take a big detour back to the city. He definitely couldn't bump into the old fart. That old man was too strong. Not only did he want to force him to be his disciple, he also had a bad character. Why are you running? Chen Wanqin was suddenly carried on Qin Hao's shoulder. She felt baffled. Elder Dan would be here soon, and she would be able to clean up the white phosphorus powder in her eyes. Qin Hao didn't have the time to reply. He carried Chen Wanqin and charged forward, pushing his aquaflow steps to the limit. If he was caught by the old fart, the consequences would be unimaginable. Stop! I said you. Chen Wanqin was jolted, and before she could finish her sentence, another gust of wind poured into her mouth. Qin Hao only wanted to run, but no matter which direction he ran in, the momentum behind him would firmly lock onto his path. It seemed like that old man was determined to get Qin Hao. This won't do. If this goes on, I'll be caught sooner or later. Looking at the exploding flame city that was less than 3 miles away, Qin Hao was extremely anxious. The distance of 3 miles had become an insurmountable moat, and the old man could catch up to them at any time. He had no choice but to put Chen Wanqin down. Anyway, he was about to reach the city, and the girl's family would definitely come to pick her up. It was time for him to leave. I'll leave you a list of medicinal herbs. 2 months later, gather all the herbs and we'll meet in the Heaven's Wall City. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Qin Hao hurriedly left a string of words on Chen Wanqin's palm, including all kinds of medicinal herbs to cure her cold disease. Then, he turned into a cloud of smoke and left. Hey, why did you suddenly run away? I still don't know your name. Chen Wanqin anxiously shouted. Not to mention seeing Qin Hao's appearance, she didn't even know his name. Moreover, it seemed like the other party didn't know her name either. However, there were no more fingertips on her palm. Qin Hao had already left. Little Wan, you're finally back. You made the old man worried to death. Just as Qin Hao left, a sloppy old man with dirty hair like a chicken's nest descended from the sky and landed beside Chen Wanqin. It was Dan Xian, the honorary elder of Fengli Temple, who had blown up the medicine jar. Dan Xian had originally thought that Chen Wanqin would be able to get rid of Xia Zhuoliu in 3 to 5 days. However, she had been gone for 2 months. He was really afraid that something would happen to her. After all, Chen Wanqin had lost the fiery dragon jade, and her cold disease was very serious. Dan Xian had even prepared to go to the mountains to look for her today. However, Chen Wanqin had returned safely. Well, it seemed like Xia Zhuoliu had been killed. What's in your eyes? Dan Xian saw a layer of white powder on Chen Wanqin's eyes. It's a long story. Chen Wanqin sighed and told him about how she had chased after Xia Zhuoliu. It had been extremely dangerous, especially the battle 3 days ago. Not only had her cold disease acted up, but Xia Zhuoliu had also taken the opportunity to charm her. Fortunately, she had been saved by a kind person. Bit by bit, Chen Wanqin also told him about how she had met Qin Hao, including how to suppress the cold and even eradicate it. Unfortunately, that person was a mute. She had originally wanted to take a look at Qin Hao and thank him properly. But now, he had not even left his name behind. Chen Wanqin had already decided to go to Heaven's Wall City to look for Qin Hao in 2 months. She had to find that person. Otherwise, her heart would feel like it was being scratched by a cat, and she would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Moreover, Qin Hao was the only person who could suppress her cold disease, not to mention whether it could be cured. Based on the current situation, her cold disease would relapse in 2 months. Chen Wanqin had to go. There's actually such an expert in this world, even more awesome than me. Dan Xian was extremely shocked when he heard this, and his heart could not calm down for a long time. Even he could not suppress her cold disease, but a mute had solved it. How magical! Speaking of which, he had also met a magical young man 2 months ago. That young man had quite an understanding of alchemy. Dan Xian really wanted to take him in as a disciple. Perhaps with his help, he could research a medicine to cure Chen Wanqin. Unfortunately, he ran away. Yeah, why do you think he ran away? Could it be he has an enemy in the city? Chen Wanqin thought of Qin Hao again. Just now, Qin Hao did not say anything and carried her on his shoulder and ran away in a hurry. He must have an enemy in the city. If you have an enemy, just say it. No matter who it is, they are all material to be slapped to death by Elder Dan. There is no need to run at all. Forget it. Dan Xian shook his head. Let's go back to the city first and clean up the white phosphorus powder in your eyes. 2 months later, you must go to Heaven's Wall City to look for Mute, in an abandoned and dilapidated temple. After Qin Hao and Chen Wanqin separated, they were like frightened rabbits, hiding firmly and not daring to go out. Even though the old fart's aura had disappeared and he did not seem to be chasing after them, he still did not dare to go out. That old man was a 7-star Yuan master and could not resist at all in his hands. He would definitely be slapped to death. It was too terrifying. However, why didn't he chase after them? Qin Hao could not figure it out. In fact, Dan Xian was only able to capture Qin Hao's location based on Chen Wanqin's aura. Now that Qin Hao had left Chen Wanqin, Dan Xian did not have the time to chase after an unrelated person. That girl's family must have found her. Qin Hao exhaled. That girl's background was not simple, so nothing should happen to her. Before leaving, Qin Hao had already left behind a list of medicinal herbs. Although those medicinal herbs were very precious and rare, to ordinary people, they were simply immortal herbs. However, to Chen Wanqin, collecting them should not be a difficult task. As long as they went to Heaven's Wall City 2 months later, Qin Hao would be able to recognize Chen Wanqin and then cure her cold disease. After all, Qin Hao's current cultivation level was too low, and the origin qi in his body was not enough to support the entire treatment process. He had at least reached the 5th layer of element gathering realm to be able to control the red lotus fire to cure Chen Wanqin. Let's take a look at the Great Void Cauldron first. Qin Hao did not forget that the Great Void Cauldron released a golden bell canopy to block Zhang Meng's killing blow. Now that the Great Void Cauldron was repaired, he should be able to connect with its spiritual consciousness and investigate that skill. Chapter 72. Translator, Transin Editor. Transin saying goodbye to Guadi Qin Hao closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the temple, trying to communicate with the Great Void Cauldron. Gradually, a hint of shock flashed between his eyebrows, and his body became excited. The Great Void Cauldron, which had been silent for a long time, was finally connected. As expected, releasing the Golden Bell Shield was one of its skills. Moreover, this skill could be controlled by itself. Thinking back to the time when it blocked the fatal palm strike for Xiaogua, it seemed that the Golden Bell Shield could block an attack that was 1 level higher than Qin Hao's. It was not just 1 level, but an entire level. For example, Qin Hao was currently in the 1st layer of element gathering tier. Then, the Golden Bell Shield activated by the Great Void Cauldron could block an attack from a 1-star master. As Qin Hao's level increased, the power of the Golden Bell Shield would also increase. This was undoubtedly a life-saving trump card. However, Qin Hao felt that Zhang Meng did not use his full strength in that attack. At most, it was at the 5th layer of element gathering tier. A blow from a 5th layer of element gathering tier was enough to kill Xiaogua. Moreover, Zhang Meng acted in a hurry. No matter what, at least with my current level of cultivation, I can block an attack from a 6th layer of element gathering tier after activating the Golden Bell Shield. Qin Hao suppressed his excitement. The Golden Bell Shield could only be activated once. After activating it, it would take a long time before it could be used again. Moreover, it could not exceed the tolerance of the Great Void Cauldron. Otherwise, the divine weapon would be seriously damaged, and the ring would crack like that time. If the pressure was too great, the divine weapon might even be destroyed. The only way is to become stronger. Unless it is absolutely necessary, I will not use this trump card casually. After making up his mind, Qin Hao exhaled slightly. Now that he had taken back the Red Lotus Fire and collected 10 inner cores for Qin Yu's treatment, it was time to leave Exploding Flame City. Before leaving, he had to go to the encampment of the Furious Bear mercenary group and greet Xiaogua. Moreover, Qiutian town was 500 miles away from Exploding Flame City. He needed a fast horse to get back to the clan. In Qidaxiong's backyard, there was a Fergana horse, which could travel thousands of miles in a day. In half a day, it would be able to rush back to the Qin family. Qin Hao stayed in the ruined temple for another 5 days. Firstly, it was to avoid the terrifying old fart. Secondly, he wanted to take this opportunity to study the Great Void Cauldron and see if he could improve the Golden Bell Shield. 5 days later, Qin Hao went to the Qi mansion. Big brother, you're finally back. Did you get the thing? Xiaogua was extremely excited. It had only been a few days since he last saw Qin Hao, but it felt like 3 years had passed. Yes, Qin Hao nodded. Since Dende had made a move, how could he not be able to get it back? Great! Xiaogua laughed happily. He was very happy for Qin Hao. Although he didn't know what Qin Hao had obtained from the terrifying lake, he instinctively felt that it must be something extraordinary. Where is Senior Qi? Why isn't he with you? Qin Hao found that Qi Daxiong was not with Sayogwa. This was not normal. My father is meeting a big shot, Sayogwa said with a smirk. However, there was a trace of imperceptible seriousness on his face. The big shot in the mansion was really big. Even Qi Daxiong was humbly nodding and bowing in front of that big shot, like a little lamb. Little Qi, you must help me keep an eye on that mute. You must find him. Don't worry, Dan Lao. I will find him even if I have to dig 3 feet into the ground. While he was stunned, 2 figures walked out from the back hall. The one walking behind was Qi Daxiong. Qi Daxiong bent his waist like a tiger, his face almost touching the ground. However, the one walking in front of Qi Daxiong made Qin Hao open his mouth in shock. It was actually the old fart whose furnace had exploded. After seeing Qin Hao, Dan Xian was also slightly stunned. Yesterday, Chen Wanqin left Exploding Flame City and returned to Fengli Temple. After killing Xia Zhuoliu, she needed to go back and report. Moreover, she had to tell the important news that someone could suppress the cold disease to her high and mighty father. Before leaving, Chen Wanqin told Dan Xian to search for a mute in Exploding Flame City. Chen Wanqin felt that Qin Hao might not have gone far and could still be found. Who was the fastest to find someone in Exploding Flame City? Of course, it was the powerful Qi Daxiong. Therefore, Dan Xian went to the Qi mansion without hesitation and told him everything. According to Chen Wanqin's description, the mute was about 16 or 17 years old and had the strength of the first layer of element gathering tier. This characteristic was very obvious. After all, there were not many mutes in the city, and even fewer in element gathering tier. However, Qi Daxiong didn't seem to remember such a person. F*CK. When Qin Hao saw that Dan Xian was at Qi Daxiong's house, he ran away without saying anything. I've been hiding for so long, and now I meet this old man again. It's you? It's fate. Dan Xian was instantly overjoyed, and saliva flowed out again. He had already let Qin Hao run away once. How could he let him run away again? With a flash of his body, he blocked the door. I say, kid, why are you running away? Yeah, big brother, this is my house. Why are you running? Sayogwa was dumbfounded. It seemed that Qin Hao was very afraid of the sloppy old man at the door. Qin Hao's face was full of bitterness. Damn, he actually blocked the door. He couldn't help but step back, pulled Sayogwa, and whisper, "This old man is gay." What did you say? He's gay? Sayogwa was very shocked. He pointed at Dan Xian and shouted. No wonder Big Brother wanted to run away. Now, even Sayogwa wanted to run away. This shout scared Qi Daxiong so much that he almost fainted. Nonsense, how did the old man become gay? Dan Xian's face was full of anger. Children's words carry no harm. Old Dan, don't blame me. Qi Daxiong hurried to apologize. He couldn't anger old Dan. Otherwise, if he was angry, his breath could shake the exploding flame city to the sky. Howard, why aren't you apologizing to the awesome old Dan? Qi Daxiong bent his waist and begged with a pleading face. Little Gua is young, but Howard, you shouldn't be like this. Awesome old Dan? How awesome is he? Even his furnace exploded. Qin Hao still didn't know Dan Xian's identity. Don't talk nonsense. Old Dan is the honorary elder of the Fengli Temple. He is a respected alchemy master in the Heaven's Wall City. How could he explode his furnace? Qi Daxiong really wanted to cry now. These two kids were really insensible. Ahem, it's fine, it's fine. This old master is just exchanging experiences with his apprentice. What are you afraid of? Dan Xian smiled and walked over to Qin Hao's side. Apprentice, come home with your master. Boom. Sayogwa was stunned. Crack. Qi Daxiong felt like a bolt of lightning had struck his eyes. Qin Hao is old Dan's disciple? Oh my god, why didn't he say so earlier? Thinking about it, Qin Hao's amazing performance at the auction made sense. He must be some big shot's disciple. He didn't expect him to be Dan Xian's disciple. Pill Xian experts were famous for their prowess in this area. On the surface, he was the honorary elder of the Fengli Temple. In fact, it wasn't an exaggeration to call him the vice sect master. Qin Hao didn't show off, but he had such a powerful master behind him. Qi Daxiong originally thought that Qin Hao was climbing the social ladder with Xiaogua. Now, it seemed that wasn't the case. Dan Xian's identity was no less than Xiaogua's master, the drunkard sect master. In some ways, the drunkard sect master was begging Dan Xian like a grandson. After all, the drunkard sect master's pills were all from Dan Xian. This included Xiaogua's major origin pill. Who is your disciple, you old man? Chapter 73. Translator, Transin editor. Transin writing the old man to gallop Qi Daxiong and Xiaogua were dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? I'll say it again, old man is not made of glass. Dan Xian was a little angry. As an alchemy grandmaster, being called glass was not a good thing. He had already given Qin Hao a lot of face. If it was someone else, he would have slapped them to death. Are you sure you're not made of glass? Qin Hao asked again in a serious tone. Old man is very sure. I'm not made of glass. Dan Xian replied. Phew. Qin Hao exhaled. Then I'm relieved. Cut the crap. What do I have to do to make you come with me? Dan Xian grabbed Qin Hao's clothes and did not let go. He could not let him run away again. If you want me to go with you, it's not impossible, but you have to promise me a few things. Since he was sure that the old man was not made of glass, and Qin Hao's cultivation was too low, he thought that it might be a good thing to have a tough old man protecting him. As long as you're willing to go with old man, not to mention a few things, I'll promise you 100 things. Dan Xian was overjoyed. As for the stunned Qi Daxiong and Xiaogua, they were ignored by the two. Okay, first, I won't light the fire for you, Qin Hao said. Old man agrees. Dan Xian nodded. Chopping firewood, lighting the fire, washing the clothes, cooking, there was no need for Qin Hao to do it. Naturally, the stupid donkey would do it. Qi Daxiong and Xiaogua looked at each other. They seemed to have understood. Dan Xian had always wanted to take Qin Hao as his disciple, but Qin Hao was not willing. Dan Xian's identity was incomparably awesome. If it were anyone else, they would be overjoyed. Second, I won't call you master. At most, I'll call you old man. I agree. Dan Xian nodded again. As long as Qin Hao was willing to go, it did not matter what he called him. Qi Daxiong's heart skipped a beat. You've acknowledged him as your teacher, yet you don't call him master. It doesn't seem right. Third, you can't force me to do things I don't want to do. In other words, you can't order me around. Agreed. Dan Xian nodded again. Qi Daxiong shuddered. As the saying goes, a master's order is as important as a mountain. Qin Hao, on the other hand, actually didn't listen to his master's words and was pushing his luck. Fourth, you can't order me around. I agree. The fifth and most important thing is that if someone bullies me or threatens my family, stop talking. Old man, slap him to death. Dan Xian patted his chest and promised. In fact, there was no need for Qin Hao to say anything. Dan Xian would only accept him as a disciple in his entire life, so he would definitely regard him as a treasure. Qi Daxiong, who was standing at the side, was sweating profusely. How was this accepting a disciple? This was clearly raising an ancestor. However, she was really happy for Qin Hao. He was so lucky to have such a powerful master to protect him. Words are no guarantee. Let's test it out first. Qin Hao pointed at Qi Daxiong and said, "Help me kill him." Boom. Qi Daxiong felt as if a huge rock had hit his head. He shouted in panic, "Hao, are you serious?" At this moment, he was really scared out of his wits. He was the most powerful man in Exploding Flame City, and he was omnipotent. However, compared to Dan Xian, he was nothing. As for Dan Xian, he was too lazy to talk nonsense at this moment. He had already gathered a huge amount of energy in his palm and locked it firmly on Qi Daxiong. It seemed like he could smash Qi Daxiong into pieces with one slap. I'm just kidding. You really want to kill him? Qin Hao quickly blocked the attack with a smirk on his face. Old man, I'm not joking with you. Since it's my disciple's request, I must do it even if it costs me my life. Because I'm your master, Dan Xian said solemnly. At this moment, Qin Hao fell silent. He was very touched. Although Dan Xian's appearance was not very good, He was a person who valued relationships very much. However, you can't joke so casually. Are you here for something today? Chi Daxiong was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. He quickly changed the topic, afraid that Dan Xian would kill him. Qin Hao nodded. I've been out for a long time. It's time for me to go home. Then, he told Dan Xian about his identity and the purpose of his visit to Exploding Flame City. Of course, he only said that he was here to collect the inner cores of the dire beasts. He did not mention anything about the Red Lotus Fire. Xiaotian Town was very far from Exploding Flame City. He needed a good horse to return to his family. That's easy. I'll give you the horse in my backyard. It could travel thousands of miles in a day. It will only take half a day to send you home. Chi Daxiong said proudly. That lousy horse is too slow. Dan Xian curled his lips and looked disgusted. Mine is a Fergana horse. Chi Daxiong was not convinced. No matter how good Dan Xian's alchemy skills were, he could not deny that a Fergana horse was fast. A Fergana horse is nothing. How can it compare to old man's speed? It's easy for my disciple to go home. He can ride on my back and reach home in 4 hours. Dan Xian said. Chi Daxiong and Xiaohua almost fell to the ground. Indeed, no matter how fast a horse was, it could not be faster than a Yuan master. Moreover, Dan Xian was a 7-star Yuan master. This isn't very good. Letting Qin Hao ride on the old man's back was obviously disrespectful to the old man. You're my disciple. What's so bad about it? Let's go. I want to see your family too. Dan Xian did not mind at all. He pointed at his neck and let Qin Hao ride on his back. All right. Qin Hao did not argue. He jumped and landed on Dan Xian's shoulder. Then, he cupped his fists and said, Senior Qi, Brother Gua, come to my house when you're free. Of course. Why don't I go with you now? How about this, Dad? I'll ride on your back too. As he spoke, Xiaohua climbed on Chi Daxiong's head. Excuse me, Chi Daxiong scolded. Then, he said to Qin Hao, Take care. We'll go again after a while. Explosive Flame City had just experienced a big change. The Condor mercenary group was completely removed. Sure Haoqi also ran away with the Lupus mercenary group. Everything in the city had to be suppressed by the Raging Bear mercenary group. Chi Daxiong could not leave now. Then, we'll meet again. After Qin Hao finished speaking, a gust of wind rose from the ground. Both of them, including Dan Xian, disappeared completely in front of Chi Daxiong. A 7-star Yuan master is really scary. Such astonishing speed left Chi Daxiong in the dust. After leaving Chi Daxiong's mansion, Qin Hao rode on Dan Xian and went straight to Akita town. It had to be said that Dan Xian's speed was extremely fast. The scenery around him flew past rapidly. Qin Hao could not even open his eyes. Although a 7-star Yuan master did not have the ability to fly, his body could travel hundreds of meters with a step. It was completely incomparable to a horse. In the eyes of mortals, this astonishing speed was no different from flying. For hours later, Qin Hao returned to his familiar hometown. In his previous life, his cultivation was Dendi. Using the Aquaflow steps was even faster than this. With just a thought, he could return to Akita town from Explosive Flame City in an instant. Therefore, Qin Hao was very calm when he saw Dan Xian's amazing performance. This made Dan Xian look at him in a new light. The old man's disciple was indeed different. If it were someone else, they would have screamed in fear. See? That's my house. It's pretty big. Qin Hao stood on the street and pointed at Qin Mansion in the distance. He was very excited. He was finally back. Small place. Dan Xian did not think much of it. Fully Temple occupied a few mountains. Even Dan Xian's alchemy room was almost as big as Qin Mansion. I'll go back first. You sit and drink some herbal tea. Qin Hao strode toward Qin Mansion. Why? You don't want to let the old man in? Do you think I'm an embarrassment? Dan Xian was a little dissatisfied. No, I'm afraid you'll scare my family. Qin Hao turned around and smiled. Dan Xian's identity was too shocking. If he suddenly showed up, his grandfather would probably be scared to death. Chapter 74. You're the one I smoked." When he arrived at the entrance of the Qin residence, the guard were extremely excited when they saw that Qin Hao had returned. Now, Qin Hao was different from the past. He was the hero of the family. He panicked and wanted to run to the ancestral hall to report to Qin Shilong. However, what they couldn't figure out was why young Master Qin Hao brought an old beggar back. They saw Dan Xian sitting in the opposite tea house, drinking tea. The guards guessed that perhaps the young master was kind-hearted and saw that the old beggar was pitiful, so he invited him to drink tea. In the eyes of the guards, Dan Xian had become a stinky beggar. Qin Hao waved his hand and did not let the guard inform Qin Shilong. There was no need to make a fuss. He did not want to be too conspicuous. Just as Qin Hao stepped into the manor, the two figures hiding in the dark outside quickly ran towards two different directions of the town. They were spies planted by the Zhua and Zhuang families. Their purpose was to keep an eye on Qin Hao. Now that Qin Hao had returned, it was time to settle the score with him. Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian had been waiting for this moment for a long time. These two informants did not escape Dan Xian's eyes. In response, Dan Xian only snorted and drank his tea quietly. He could tell that this godforsaken town wasn't very peaceful, and his precious disciple wasn't very popular either. But so what? At worst, he could just slap all the birds that stuck their heads out to death. Dan Xian was already prepared to establish Qin Hao's prestige. After Qin Hao returned home, he did not go to the ancestral hall to burn incense. He went straight to the east courtyard. After being away for 3 months, she missed Xiao Han very much. He wondered if that lass was doing well, if her swordsmanship had improved, and if she had become more beautiful. At this moment, Qin Hao even blamed himself a little. He came in such a hurry that he forgot to buy a gift for Xiao Han. At this time, a burst of noise came from the front. The noise was very rude and was obviously directed at Xiao Han. Qin Hao's brows wrinkled instantly, and his good mood of going home plummeted. He strode over and wanted to see which idiot dared to behave atrociously in the east courtyard. East courtyard? Qin Hao has already died outside. It's impossible for him to come back. Just give up. A young man in his 20s spoke arrogantly in front of Xiao Han. Behind the young man stood Qin Yuhai and Qin Dapeng. There is no doubt that the one who spoke was Daming Qin, who had just returned from the Fengli Temple. Xiao Han didn't respond to him. He didn't even look at him. He walked coldly toward the main hall. The determination in his eyes for Qin Hao's return didn't waver at all. Stop right there. Qin Daming opened his arms to block Xiao Han. He couldn't help but get angry. How dare you treat me like air? I am an outer disciple of Fengli Temple. I am incomparably noble. What right does Qin Hao have to compare himself with me? In terms of strength, ability, and status, he is a useless piece of trash. Don't be so unappreciative and shameless. In my eyes, you are not even 1/10,000th of Qin Hao. Even if he is a piece of trash, you are worse than trash. Xiao Han said coldly. Fine. To tell you the truth, I will move to the east courtyard immediately. The ancestor has already agreed. Since you don't know how to appreciate kindness, don't blame me for forcing myself on you. Daming Qin was so angry that he said fine 3 times in a row. He hated Qin Hao to the extreme. He didn't know what kind of drug he had given this woman to make her so hell-bent on him. Young Master Daming, please leave the east courtyard. Don't force us to make a move. At this moment, 6 men in armor surrounded Xiao Han. They were the guards assigned to Qin Hao by Qin Shilong. They were all in body-tempering stage 8, the best of the best. Before Qin Hao left, he had instructed them to protect Xiao Han's safety. How dare a servant stop me from doing my job? Daming Qin's anger burned even more fiercely. In the past few days, he had come to harass Xiao Han more than once, but he was blocked by these 6 guards every time. Daming Qin couldn't even deal with one of them, let alone 6 at the same time. However, today was different. Qin Yuhai was also here today. Get lost. Qin Yuhai waved his hand, creating a strong wind that fiercely hit the 6 guards. The 6 guards were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths at the same time. A body-tempering stage martial artist was no match for a martial artist in the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. After sending the guards flying, Qin Yu Hai had an indescribable satisfaction on his face. Originally, he didn't dare to go too far because Qin Laosi was still in the mansion. Recently, he had been too busy, so Qin Laosi took Lu Yu to the city to do business. Now, Qin Manor had mines and 6 fine liquids under their name. Every transaction was worth a lot. Qin Yu Hai was actually very jealous of Qin Laosi. Fortunately, Qin Laosi took advantage of a loophole today and came to the east courtyard to act wildly. For my son to take a fancy to a bastard like you. It's your fortune from 8 lifetimes. You little slut, quickly consummate your marriage with my son and be a good concubine in the future. Also, hand over the jade pendant on your neck, Qin Yu Hai said arrogantly. He didn't forget Xiao Han's priceless jade pendant. Once Daming Qin and that wild girl surnamed Xiao were done, Qin Laosi wouldn't be able to do anything even if he came back. Qin Yu Hai sneered in his heart. Qin Hao, Qin Hao, the old man still stepped into your courtyard. It's only a matter of time before he takes everything away from you. I'm warning you, don't force me. After the 6 guards were injured by Qin Yu Hai, Xiao Han had lost his last support and could only do it himself. Even if he died, he wouldn't let Daming Qin succeed. Force you? So what if I force you? You're just a bastard adopted by the Qin family. Even if you die, no one will care. But before you die, I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Saying this, Daming Qin's face became evil, and he reached out to grab Xiao Han's chest. Swoosh! The sound of a sword being unsheathed rang out. Xiao Han decisively made his move. Moreover, he used his ultimate move. Fleeting Sword. This sword was none other than the one Qin Hao had taught him back then. This move contained all of Xiao Han's strength. This move would definitely make Daming Qin pay a price. Fleeting Sword was a high-grade heaven-class sword technique. After being improved by Qin Hao, it was powerful enough to kill enemies above its level. Unfortunately, Xiao Han had too little experience and hadn't participated in a real battle. This move was still dodged by Daming Qin. However, it left a permanent scar on Daming Qin's face. Amidst a shrill cry, Daming Qin panicked and dodged a vital point. However, Xiao Han's sword cut off a piece of skin from his face. Just half a second, and his head would have been cut off. It was extremely dangerous. This caused Daming Qin to be terrified. Xiao Han's attack was actually at body tempering stage 5, which was even stronger than Qin Hao's. At the same time, his anger erupted like a volcano. This move had completely disfigured him. I'll make you suffer and taste 108 different postures. Daming Qin became fierce. He no longer held back his body tempering stage 7 strength, and once again reached out to grab Xiao Han. On the other hand, Xiao Han's fleeting sword had exhausted all of her strength. Not to mention resisting, he couldn't even stand steadily due to the lack of strength. However, at this moment, a figure rushed in from the door like lightning. It was so fast that even Qin Yu Hai couldn't react in time. Slap! A loud slap suddenly rang out. Before Daming Qin's hand could touch Xiao Han, he was slapped to the ground. The slap landed directly on his injured left cheek, causing him great pain. Xiao Han looked at the person standing beside her. It was Qin Hao, whom she had been thinking about day and night. Chapter 75. How can you compare to me? The guard on the ground was overjoyed. Qin Hao came just in time. Qin Yu Hai could beat up their servants, but he didn't dare to do anything to young Master Hao. In fact, this was indeed the case. Qin Yu Hai's expression changed greatly. Qin Hao returned safely. What did this mean? It meant that He Sha's mission failed. He Sha might even be dead. At this moment, Qin Yu Hai was shocked. He couldn't imagine how Qin Hao escaped from He Sha's hands. As for Qin Daping, he was so scared that he peed his pants. I'm late. Qin Hao gently pinched Xiao Han's face. He had seen the scene just now. He was shocked. In just 3 months, Xiao Han had advanced from body tempering stage 2 to body tempering stage 5. She had even mastered graceful sword. Not only that, her graceful sword had already reached small completion. It could be seen that Xiao Han was very hard-working and talented. It was a pity that the sword just now wasn't good enough. Otherwise, it would have been enough to kill Qin Daming. Who the hell are you? How dare you barge into Qin Manor and sneak attack me from behind? Qin Daming covered his bloody face and got up from the ground. For a moment, he didn't recognize Qin Hao. He couldn't be blamed. He left Qin Manor when he was 10 years old and was taken care of by Qin Yuhai at the foot of Fengli Temple. After 10 years of hard work, he became an outer disciple of Fengli Temple. When Qin Daming left, Qin Hao was only 5 years old. 10 years had passed, and the two of them were no longer the same. It was normal that he didn't recognize Qin Hao. However, Qin Hao recognized him. Qin Daming and Qin Yuhai looked alike. Their arrogant expressions were like words carved on their foreheads. I'm Qin Daming, a disciple of Fengli Temple. I'm awesome. A good dog doesn't block the way. Qin Hao didn't want to talk nonsense with him. He took Xiao Han's hand and walked towards the main hall. After 3 months, he only wanted to take a good look at this girl. Stop right there. Qin Daming couldn't help but burn with rage. In the past few days, she had harassed Xiao Han many times. Every time, Xiao Han was cold and did not even look at her. But now, this fellow who had suddenly barged in and grabbed her hand. Not only did Xiao Han not resist, his face even brimmed with happiness. This made Daming Qin very unhappy, very unhappy. Big brother. He is Qin Hao. Qin Daping pointed at Qin Hao and stuttered. He had a feeling that Qin Hao would not die so easily. As expected, the scary guy came back and threw Qin Daming to the ground with a single move. This made Qin Daping even more afraid. What did you say? Is he the thief Qin Hao? Qin Daming first looked at Qin Daping, then at his father. Qin Daping's face was full of fear. He was so scared that he was trembling like an old hen. Qin Yuhai's face was ashen. He looked at Qin Hao with eyes filled with unspeakable hatred. Qin Daming did not need to confirm anymore. The person who had barged in was undoubtedly Qin Hao. He was the one who crippled his little brother's hand. He was the one who caused his father to lose the medicine store and be bedridden, wasting away day by day. You still dare to come back? Immediately kneel in front of me, break your own hands and feet, then get out of this courtyard. Also, tell me the secret formula of your 6 virtues liquid. Since we are of the same clan, I can still let you live the rest of your life as a cripple. Qin Daming's nose was raised to the sky. His tone was unquestionable. It was as if he was already doing Qin Hao a great favor. Qin Hao frowned. He originally thought that Qin Daming, who had been cultivating in Fengli Temple for 10 years, would be very difficult to deal with. He didn't expect that the more he cultivated, the more retarded he became. What? Did you really think that you could beat me by slapping me when I wasn't paying attention? Go eat shit. You only attacked me from behind. Despicable and shameless. You're just a lowly coward. You're just a mere 4th-layer body-tempering realm cultivator. I can crush you to death with just a finger. Qin Daming said fiercely. Qin Daping, who was standing at the side, sighed in relief. Indeed, everyone's attention was on Xiao Han. They didn't expect Qin Hao to come back. Moreover, he was standing right behind them. This Qin Hao is really shameless. He even attacked the mighty big brother. Not only are you retarded, you are also an egomaniac. I will give you 3 breaths of time to get out of my sight. Otherwise, I don't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of grandfather. Qin Hao originally didn't want to argue with Qin Daming because he couldn't arouse the slightest bit of interest in Qin Hao. But now he was courting death. Ha ha! Qin Daming held his stomach and laughed. Did he hear wrongly? The 4th-stage body-tempering realm cultivator Qin Hao asked him to get out. He even said that he would teach him a lesson on behalf of grandfather. Qin Hao, oh Qin Hao, your good days are coming to an end. Grandfather has already agreed to let me live in the East Courtyard. Do you think that just because you defeated Zhuang Heba and Zhuo Junshen, you can hold your head high among the younger generation of Qiutian town? You are wrong. There is still me, Qin Daming. Zhuang Heba is nothing. Zhuo Junshen is nothing. Compared to me, they're just a pile of sh*t. Even you don't have the qualifications to be looked at by me. How can you compare to me? I am the eldest son of the Qin family. Grandfather is proud of me. I have the Fengli Temple behind me. Don't you want to know why grandfather is looking at me differently? Qin Daming raised his head arrogantly. Listen carefully. I have become the disciple of an external deacon of the Fengli Temple. That old man Qin Shilong is completely convinced by me. Right now, I am the heavens of the Qin family and the earth of the Qin family. If I say one, no one dares to say two. What do you have to compare to me? Hurry up and break your own arms and legs to apologize to me. Then get the hell out of the east courtyard. Oh, Qin Hao dragged out the word oh. He thought that Qin Daming had found a powerful backer. Qin Daming was just a small, external deacon of the Fengli Temple. That's all. He wanted to chase away Qin Hao and take over the courtyard. Speaking of which, the two of them really couldn't be compared, because Qin Hao's master was the pill profound of the Phoenix Glass Palace, second only to one and above everyone else. What do I have to compare to you? Take him. Qin Hao pointed behind Qin Daming. At this moment, an old man with dirty hair like a bird's nest slowly walked over. Qin Daming turned around, his eyes widened. Stinky beggar? You want to compare me with a stinky beggar? Ha ha! Qin Hao, I think you've gone crazy. Of all the things you could have found, you just had to find a stinky beggar. Qin Daming laughed so hard that he was about to cramp up. In front of Xian Dan, he called them a bunch of things. He even ran in front of Dan Xian and pointed at his nose. Slap! A heavy slap to the face sounded. Qin Daming had barely started laughing when he was slapped to the ground by Dan Xian. This slap was so heavy that it caused Qin Daming's right cheek to bleed. Now both sides of his face were bleeding. Where did this stinky beggar come from? How dare you hurt my son? Die! Qin Yuhai was furious. Qin Daming was slapped in the face by Qin Hao. Now, even a stinky beggar dared to hurt his son. What was wrong with the guards at the gate? Why did they let a beggar into the Qin residence? Immediately, he punched Xian Dan's head. This beggar dared to come to the Qin residence and cause trouble. He deserved to die. Slap! However, another heavy slap rang out. Qin Yuhai hadn't even reached Dan Xian when he was sent flying with a single blow. Chapter 76. You are no longer a disciple of Fengli Temple. In fact, he was already merciful. If it weren't for Qin Hao, he would have beaten Qin Yuhai and Qin Daming to death. Who does old man think he is? Open your dog eyes and see clearly. Dan Xian waved his hand. A white light flew out from his hand and stabbed into the stone floor. It was a feather, but it wasn't an ordinary feather. It was a feather that only the head of Fengli Temple could wear. Ever since Qin Daming came back, he was still wearing the outer disciple robe of Fengli Temple. He never took it off, whether it was in the Qin mansion or walking on the street. He always wore the outer disciple robe of Fengli Temple to show off. It was as if this was the only way to show off his extraordinary status and how awesome he was. Dan Xian stepped into the east courtyard and immediately recognized Qin Daming. This was the lowest-ranked outer disciple of Fengli Temple. Gong! Gong feather! Qin Daming was so shocked that his mind went blank. Dan Xian's identity was special. He liked to be alone. 90% of the disciples of Fengli Temple had never seen this legendary honorary elder. They had only heard of his name, but never seen him in person. But Qin Daming recognized this feather. This was something that only the head of the sect could wear. How is this possible? Why is Head Qin's feather in the hands of this stinky beggar? Could he be? Boom! A bolt of lightning struck his brain. Qin Daming remembered. There was an honorary elder in the sect. Other than the head of the sect, the honorary elder was the highest ranking. This feather was indeed two. One was on Head Qin's body. The other one was on the honorary elder's body. If the stinky beggar in front of him wasn't Head Qin, then he must be the honorary elder. Shit, I've poked the emperor. Fengli Temple outer disciple Qin Daming greets the honorary elder. Immediately, Qin Daming fell flat on his face in front of Dan Xian's feet. His nose was touching the ground, and his whole body was trembling in fear. I can forgive you for speaking rudely to the old man, but you dare to humiliate my disciple. From today onwards, you are no longer an outer disciple of Fengli Temple. Dan Xian said indifferently. This simple sentence was enough to take Qin Daming's life. What did it mean that he was no longer a disciple of Fengli Temple? Disciple? The disciple of the honorary elder had come to Qin's mansion? Where is he? Other than Qin Daming, there were only Qin Yuhai, Qin Dapeng, Qin Hao, and Xiao Han. Qin Yuhai and Qin Dapeng naturally couldn't be Dan Xian's disciples. It was impossible for Xiao Han either. Could it be Qin Hao? Qin Daming's jaw dropped as he stared at Qin Hao in horror. He couldn't believe it. He simply couldn't believe it. Qin Hao, a fourth-layer body-tempering realm cultivator whom he had called trash, was actually accepted by Dan Xian as his disciple. Was the world in chaos? However, Dan Xian used facts to prove that his treasured disciple was Qin Hao. How is it, kid? Are you satisfied with my punishment? Dan Xian walked in front of Qin Hao in an amiable manner, without a trace of arrogance. It was completely different from how he treated Qin Daming. You are the elder of Fengli Temple, so you have the final say. I am only responsible for guiding you in alchemy. Am I right, old man? Qin Hao rubbed his nose and laughed. Boom! Qin Daming's heart completely fell into a cold abyss. Qin Hao really was Dan Xian's disciple. This guy actually didn't call Dan Xian master, but old man. Qin Daming worked hard for 10 years, sweeping the mountain for 10 years before he was lucky enough to enter Fengli Temple and become the lowest outer disciple. Relying on his top-notch flattery skills, he was lucky enough to be accepted as a disciple by an outer disciple. He originally thought that he would be able to soar into the sky. Now, just by saying a few impolite words to Qin Hao, Qin Daming had lost everything he had. His hard work, all the suffering he suffered, all went to Shui Dong Lu. I don't accept this. You are only an honorary elder of the sect. You have no right to expel me. Qin Daming shouted like a madman. You don't accept this? Dan Xian glared. Fengli Temple's hundreds of large and small dawn were all refined by old man. Even that bastard Chun Kang didn't dare to say anything. You don't accept this? Not only you, even your master is no longer an elder of Fengli Temple. Hearing this, Qin Daming's face turned pale. Now, even his master was expelled from the sect by Dan Xian. As for Chun Kang, he was the supreme sect leader of Fengli Temple. In Dan Xian's eyes, sect leader Chun was just a bastard. Qin Daming was in complete despair. Xiao Han greets Grandpa Elder. After knowing Dan Xian's identity, Xiao Han was very nervous and hurriedly bowed. Ha ha, little girl, you are so pretty. I didn't prepare anything for our first meeting. Come, 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 this is the qi gathering pill that old man refined a while ago. Dan Xian naturally saw the relationship between Xiao Han and Qin Hao. This little girl should be his precious disciple's child bride. Since she was his disciple's future wife, how could he be stingy? Immediately, he took out a tattered cloth bag from his waist and took out a jade bottle, handing it to Xiao Han. Qi gathering pill. Qin Daming swallowed his saliva with difficulty. This was the qi gathering pill that even the inner sect disciples would fight over. Only the senior brothers who were ranked in the top 10 could receive a few each month. Now, the entire bottle was given to that bastard Xiao Han. Old man, Xiao Han hasn't even reached the gathering element state. Are you trying to harm her by giving her the qi gathering pill? Qin Hao said. He was also slightly surprised. Dan Xian's tattered cloth bag was a spatial magic tool, the Sumera bag. In Jiang country, only the sect leader could wear the Sumera bag. Dan Xian's Sumera bag obviously wasn't given by Chun Kang. Chun Kang didn't have that ability. It seemed that Dan Xian wasn't from Jiang country and had a deeper background. Oh, it's okay. I still have qi gathering pill. Here, little girl, take it. Dan Xian took out another bottle from his Sumera bag and gave it to Xiao Han. Qi gathering pill was a pill for gathering element state cultivators. It could help them break through to Yuan master state. Qi Gathering Pill was for body-tempering realm cultivators. However, with this bottle of Qi Gathering Pill, Xiao Han could directly reach the gathering element state. Qin Daming's eyes were about to spit fire. He worked hard for 10 years and only got one Qi Gathering Pill last month. It was a gift from his deacon teacher. With that precious Qi Gathering Pill, he broke through from the 6th layer of body-tempering realm to the 7th layer. Qin Daming was overjoyed. However, Dan Xian gave Xiao Han an entire bottle of Qi Gathering Pill that he regarded as a treasure. Not only that, but he also gave her a bottle of Qi Gathering Pill of an even higher grade. "Thank you, Grandpa Elder." Xiao Han was so excited that tears even appeared in her eyes. Qin Hao didn't lie to her. He really did have an almighty teacher. This master is too good. She held the 2 bottles of pills tightly in her hands, unwilling to eat a single one. She planned to leave them all for Qin Hao in the future. Qin Hao didn't notice Xiao Han's thoughts. He only asked Dan Xian, "Didn't I tell you to wait outside? Why'd you come here?" "I saw 2 old guys coming." The guard at the door called them Grandpa Zhua and Grandpa Zhuang. "Those 2 old guys are in the late stage of gathering element state. I was afraid that you would be at a disadvantage. So you knocked out the guard and came to find me?" "No." The old man came in a flash. The guard didn't even know. Dan Xian cracked a smile. It was his first time coming to his disciple's house, so he had to leave a good impression. Phew! Qin Hao breathed out a sigh of relief. He was relieved. He was afraid that Dan Xian would directly kill the guard. However, why did Zhuo Wentian and Zhuang Maoxian come to Qin Manor? Could it be because of me? Qin Hao immediately guessed it. "Young Master Qin Hao, something bad has happened. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.